Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Kind of a weird day today. Today's Tuesday, January 27th. It's 11:13 at night. I'm just doing a quick audio. I want to make a little bit of my video for tomorrow. If you might have noticed that I put up a video today that wasn't supposed to go up till tomorrow morning. And it was less than 24 hours than I put up my last video. And now I'm going to put this video up as soon as it's done. So I'm going to have 3 videos up in less than 36 hours, like 30 hours. And this one's an epic video because of Trump and Fox News reversing themselves on this shooting and the fallout because of that. And, I was just watching the shooting with my wife. I just gone outside. You're going to see a clip of me going outside, and I'm outside with the dogs, and it's been fucking cold as shit out, right? And I'm going to tell a little story here before we get into this stuff. Then I'm going to show you the Trump stuff. And then this stuff with Erika Kirk's meeting that was leaked to Candace Owens, which is so fucking bad for both of them. It exposes Candace Owens as being an absolute piece of shit, and who's been withholding, whatever. And I'll get into that. I'm going to eviscerate her for her shitty stuff. And it shows Erika Kirk as being so fake that we all knew how fake she was. I think most of us did. I called it day one, like whatever, when I saw her. That's not grieving. I said she's not grieving. And so did so many other people. Apparently Candace Owens and these other people weren't a part of that, right? So fucking, it's so weird. And so, just a brief story. I went to the doctor and I have some lingering post-COVID stuff that's kind of flared up. And, so the doctor I went who helped me before, he was not a regular doctor. It's a holistic approach. And, I wasn't psyched. I took he has this different way of testing and gathering data, and I'm going to go for some blood work. And it wasn't a great day. And I had plowed the driveway yesterday. And it's stuck, even though there's a lot of snow. Wind is blowing the snow, and we have a long driveway, and there's a lot of fields and farms around us where snow can just blow across if the wind's going in the wrong direction or right direction. And I went to leave, and the driveway was starting to be covered up at the end of it. The rest of the driveway was pretty clean. And so I went to this long appointment, and I come fucking home, and there's quite deep snow, and I think I can get my van through it, but I can't. It gets stuck. I have my wife come out, pick me up. I go get the tractor. She gets in the car, and I am starting to move some of the snow with the tractor. Now it's freezing. The tractor doesn't have a cab, and the wind is howling. It's probably around 0 degrees. I mean, and the wind was brutal. It's right now it's like 5:30, and I pick up a scoop of snow, and I'm like, oh my god, the snow's like 3 feet fucking deep on the driveway here. And so I go through, so it's this whole kind of thing that's going on. Just to give sort of a backstory. We had the chicken thing the other night, and it's like some fucking post-apocalyptic snowstorm out there. So I know people live with this kind of shit all the time, and I did for some period of my life. But, there's a blizzard I had when I was a kid, and, that kind of area. Where nature, smacks you upside the head some way and says, no matter how developed you are, we still can get you. So, but anyways, this is going to be about the year of accountability, all the stuff that's happening in this video. So I'm going to start here with the Trump stuff, which I'll get to tomorrow. And now I'm going to switch over and do the clips of Candace Owens, as many as I can get through tonight, because I have some things I don't want to forget my original sort of interpretation of this thing. Okay, I'm walking my dogs late night here. Some tracks here. I don't know if it's a bunny. It must be a bunny hopped quite a ways. And there's all these little tiny tracks around here. Some birds were just going nuts. This is our area where we have the lights. There's one candle there glowing. They're still working under the snow. They're pretty good. This is our little magical tea light forest that we have. And then we got all these little tracks around here. And my dogs. What's Tulsa? What's up, Tulsa? There's one of the tea lights there that's glowing there. Just a lot of snow here. The snow I had to move There's piles of snow here. I had a big thing with the driveway. I'll probably just tell that story. I came home from an appointment and the car got stuck. There was 2 feet of snow that had blown in there. It's all this snow I moved. The tractor. It's crazy. Anyways. Okay, so I walked away from my computer. Somehow I put it on Facebook. I don't even know how it was here. And I just realized I got this amazing offer to get Shitzel limited time offer, $8 per month only. Go Izzy TV annual, save 50% on Shitzel. You know, Facebook is still pushing this pro-Israeli stuff. I'm getting it every time I open it up. And I've been ignoring it. You know, I haven't been talking about it with you guys. Enjoy the richness of Israeli culture through films, TV shows, and documentaries. Unlimited, you know, what about Hollywood? Like, there isn't enough of this culture in Hollywood. Unlimited hours of must-watch Israeli content, dramas, documentaries, and more. Enjoy subtitles in English, Spanish, Portuguese, French, and Hebrew. Join our global community and help the Israeli stories reach millions around the world. Subscribe now to Shitzel. So I'm going to get into all the other stuff, the Candace stuff I've already done, Trump imploding, like all that stuff's happening. But I mean, I got to start with Shitzel. Like this is a good point to jump off of. Shitzel is there for everybody. Okay, so after the video I made yesterday, like 4 things came in. I've already done the Candace Owens stuff. You'll see that in a moment. Like, that's epic. A takedown of both her and Erika. You know, she has this leaked Zoom call or whatever it is, conference call Erika made right after the big event that she had with Trump and those guys from Charlie's memorial or funeral or whatever the fuck they're calling it, right? But this stuff here that I'm going to show you right now was stuff I could have added to my video of everything falling apart. I talked about the Second Amendment stuff. And so Caroline Leavitt, you can tell she's not feeling it, right? I mean, she's got those fake lips. I mean, she gets more and more plastic surgery. You can see it mounting.
Caroline, FBI Director Kash Patel said in a Sunday interview, quote, "You cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest." Does the president believe the Second Amendment rights remain in effect even when protesting?
The president supports the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding American citizens.
What? The Second Amendment rights of law-abiding American citizens? What does that mean, right? Because that guy wasn't a convicted felon. So you're saying his protest was illegal? Or, you know, Trump has committed multiple crimes and he's a felon himself. Does he have a right to bear arms, right? I mean, there's some issues in a state by state. I don't think there's a federal law, but there's state by state restrictions for people with felonies, right? Whatever it might be. But I don't even know. I don't even know if that applies. But it's not about law-abiding citizens. What the fuck are you talking about? Does that mean if you suspect somebody of breaking the law, does that mean if you jaywalk, you're not allowed to carry a weapon? Like, I mean, very fucking weaselly answer on her part. Respects the rights of Second Amendment for law-abiding citizens. Like, you guys are okay. You white fucking Republican guys are okay. You know, but you liberal people or people of color, you know, or legal immigrants, of course, they're not allowed to own a weapon. But it's illegal for them to. But, it's a fucked up answer, right? And this is a question she has to answer. She's got being asked. Because, they don't have anything on this guy. Apparently, Megyn Kelly's got a report that he was in a tussle with ICE before and broke a rib. She's going to, which I'll show you at the end of all these things. But this is so fucked up, right?
Does the president believe the Second Amendment rights remain in effect even when protesting?
The president supports the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding American citizens. Absolutely. There has been no greater supporter or defender of the right to bear arms than President Donald J. Trump.
That's not true.
So while Americans have a constitutional right to bear arms, Americans do not have a constitutional right to impede lawful immigration enforcement operations. And any gun owner knows that when you are carrying a weapon, when you are bearing arms, and you are confronted by law enforcement, you are raising the assumption of risk and the risk.
You get shot in the back after they disarm you. Like, it's okay to do that, right?
of force being used against you. And again, that's unfortunately what took place on Saturday.
Unfortunately. But they're trying to walk this thing back, and they're having trouble. Fucking boom. Big, giant, colossal fucking cursor nose. So that was like, the first video I saw, and I'm like, oh, things are starting to go south for them. Right? And then there was, well, let me show you this video clip here.
Prison, so it's important to point that out. But Mark, immigration has in the past been a strong polling issue for the president specifically and for Republicans in general. But even before Saturday's fatal shooting, one poll found a strong majority of Americans already thought the president's immigration policy had gone too far.
Okay, so this is going to set off a chain reaction over at Fox. This is what I'm going to talk about later with Candace Owens, and when she finally turned on Erika Kirk. Like, it's way too late, right? When did these people start saying, oh, I think Trump's assassination attempt was fake? Yeah, a year and a half later, fuck you, right? This is what I've been talking about for a while now. The time to tell the truth is when you know the truth. When the whatever's going on is when it's at its apotheosis, right? When it's at its peak. It's reached its level of interest. When people are watching it, that's when you're supposed to tell the truth. When you know the truth, you tell it, right? Especially if you're a so-called truther. But these poll numbers are coming out, and that's going to, send these rats running from a sinking ship. I'll show you the progression in a moment.
A new Reuters Ipsos poll has Trump's approval on immigration at a new low, 39%. And I want to repeat what he said when he was asked if Alex Pretty's death was justified. He says he wants to see the investigation and that he's going to be watching over it.
So here.
Investigation. I have to see it myself.
Does Christy know I'm going to step down? No. So, but he doesn't know what they're talking about. Like, he is not a curious person. Like, he's not really loyal, but he doesn't really know, like, all the shit people are saying. Like, he's completely unaware of what's going on the internet. He doesn't even listen to his own security briefings. He doesn't know. He's clueless. He's like Joe Biden was, just disconnected, because he doesn't want to know, and so they don't tell him until, like, he watches it on Fox News or something. He realizes shit's hitting the fan, and then he's looking for somebody to pin it on. And he throws somebody under the bus. And so there's stuff going with Tom Tolman and Kristi Noem, all this stuff, infighting. I mean, it's a fucking mess over there, right? It's always been a mess. But Trump's so oblivious that he just doesn't deal with things that, used to be a big concern, especially for someone who has no political future, right? I mean, as soon as Trump is out, he's fucking done. Like, as much as the left will want to try to keep him alive. And again, he's falling apart mentally. Like, look at when's the last time you heard from Joe Biden? Right? These old fucking guys, they just ship him out and disappear him. And, the world world after Trump, post-Trump world is going to be interesting in America because he's been such a dominant figure for the last 12 years. The left talks about him more than the right does. But when he's gone, it's going to be this huge vacuum for content. And, I mean, as much as he's a piece of shit, he's also a fucking superstar in terms of, how much everything's about Trump, right?
This morning, a growing number of Republicans are joining Democrats, calling for a full investigation into the killing of Alex Pretty by Border Patrol agents in Minneapolis.
What we're seeing on TV, it's causing deep concerns over federal tactics and accountability.
Some of the Republicans are starting to bail. They can see the writing on the wall, the Second Amendment bullshit, right? So there's a couple of things the one thing I saw from Ari Mibla, which I'll show you in a moment. But now it's like going south on Trump.
Senator Bill Cassidy calling the situation disturbing, writing the credibility of ICE and DHS are at stake. Senator Lisa Murkowski adding ICE agents do not have carte blanche in carrying out their duties. Others taking issue with how quickly the Trump administration made an assessment, labeling Pretty a domestic terrorist without providing any evidence. John Mitnick, who served in President Trump's first term and helped establish the Department of Homeland Security, criticizing the agent.
Okay, so then this happened, right? So then people are starting to say, hey, they don't ever say no to this guy or say fuck you. but they're starting to say "fuck you" to him, right? And he's, Trump and oblivious. So this was the big thing. My wife and I watched some of this. By the time it hit like dinner time, this was going on.
Caught shooting Americans to death on tape. These shootings were caught on video. That has changed everything. If these were just accounts or reports, who knows what people would actually know about the facts.
This tiny little ice person, I watched the shoving of this. I don't know, these videos disappeared, but my wife and I were watching this on maybe CNN or here. Maybe it's coming up here, I don't know. But this is a tiny little person. This has got to be like a woman. And this shove looks fake as fuck. It's almost like this was all... And if this guy is here, where's the woman that's taping him? Is she over here, I guess, at this angle? Like it does anyways. But this shove is nothing. Like you watch it, it looks totally fucking fake.
This is the kind of evidence that would make for slam dunk cases in court, although we are in a moment where the federal government says it is sometimes above being taken.
All right, let's move over here.
How Fox anchors promoted the Trump administration's extreme claims that, quote, the slain protester had brought the violence upon himself. The tape showed he did not. His presence did not include any actions that meet the legal requirements for officers to use deadly force. And that, by the way, does not mean that they committed a crime. We have a system that would have to investigate that further. But we can already say, based on the plain evidence and reality before us, they didn't have the requisite legal justification to kill him. Now, Fox played that down. They minimized the available evidence that would contradict Trump administration's version of events. And the Times did a full review of Fox's weekend coverage, concluding most of that Fox News reporting on the shooting incorrectly supported the administration's misleading initial claims, the sort of Orwellian official version of this government killing. Now, as the story accelerated, the Times reports how one Fox contributor told viewers over the weekend, quote, when you're seeing a gun in your face and you're in the scuffle, then you have to, again, assume that is a gun. Freddie did not point a gun in anyone's face. Fox also featured another guest on air who asserted that Freddie, quote, put agents in a situation where they had to use deadly force, the Times reported. That is legally false. That coverage, that tone, was common on Fox over this weekend. It was misleading, to say the least. It failed to accurately reflect the available video or documented legal standards, which journalists and lawyers know because we've covered many uses.
All right, so you guys in the thing how they're all...
After he lost the 2020 election.
Let's move forward here.
Plus the pushback, plus objections from Republicans, led Fox and its guests to start backing off those misleading claims. We have some new reporting tonight as part of our special...
Remember, they're calling this guy a domestic terrorist.
Report, and I want to read it to you. Trump basically saw that the misleading claims were failing on TV. The Wall Street Journal is now reporting that Trump's concerns grew as cable news commentators picked apart comments made by his top officials, with even some of his allies noting on TV their words were not supported by the video. And that fed Trump's worry that, quote, his administration looked chaotic, not strong, leading him to change course, a stunning shift, the Journal suggests, on a policy that's core to his political identity. So for Fox...
So, like you can see how this all goes. I mean, Trump is, he doesn't give a shit, but he totally gives a shit, right? Like he's really big into how things appear. That's why he keeps on bragging and trying to dominate the narrative. So in Trump's world, like if someone came in with a complaint about him and Trump dressed that person down and mansplained it to him, Trump thinks he's changed that person's mind. Like when he said, I think the Danish people will, once I go talk to them, they'll get it and they'll want to, sell me Greenland. Like he thinks that that's how life works. If he just gets out there and talks, people will listen to him and they'll change their minds because they won't say anything after he fucking dresses them down. Like this is, hey, Mr. Trump, hey, Mr. Trump. He's been Mr. Trump, multi-millionaire, fake, false business guy where he's like, put up on a pedestal, and he had all these yes people around him, and now as president. That's why he says, sir. People are talking, sir. They can come up to me and they go, sir, president, Mr. President, First Lady. They this is how he's addressed, right? And so, but when he realizes the narrative is crumbling, he knows he's a fake fuck. He's a grifter. Like some part of him, he's lost in his own grift, but some part of him knows he's a fucking, an insecure, narcissistic, narcissistic people are insecure and weak, and they put out a false front, right? And so they fall apart. This happens with people with personality disorders. When the truth comes knocking, they start fucking, abandoning ship and looking for people to throw under the bus, right?
Audience, just think about if that was your source of information. Viewers who watched Saturday tuned back in to find a contradicting presentation of reality by early this week. And that brings us to some video you also have to see. While we don't make it a practice here to re-air a bunch of misleading claims, unless there is a strict reason or accountability or reporting, I'm going to show you not the weekend stuff, but what we got to by early this week, as contributors and even some hosts took this all in, contradicted their own channel over the weekend, and this is how they've sounded this week.
I do believe that there was an unforced error with regard to the administration and their initial accounts of this shooting. Those accounts are not borne out by those videotapes.
I think that the extravagant statements by these DHS officials, ICE officials, and the DHS secretary over the weekend didn't play well.
It is politically disastrous for the president and also not the kind of civil society we need to live in.
Now, is ICE perfect? They're not. Can they do a better job? They can. Do I think that, some of the optics at times, do I think that going into Home Depots and arresting people there is a good idea? I don't.
We certainly should not be labeling him as being a domestic terrorist who is going to execute cops. There's no evidence to support that.
Yeah, remember, that was fucking retarded. It was retarded.
Polling as there is, Brett, suggests that people think ICE and DHS have gone too far, and they're not winning the PR war in Minnesota.
So a lot of this video, because I'm going to cover this with Candace as well, is when people decide to tell the truth. And when they're rats on a sinking ship. Because they're not people who believe in what they're saying. And they're always looking at poll numbers or looking for an exit ramp or, in case the things go south and how they can, minimize their personal exposure on something. And this is like, all these people in the show. This is how the show works, right? For whatever organic aspect of the show, people can be thrown under the bus. They can be fucked by the controllers. Like these guys are all fighting for, they're pushing back against that moment when someone says, hey, let's make this guy the fall guy. Like everybody in the show is a potential fall guy. And they can be executed. They can be, embarrassed. Like they're all at the, disposal. They serve at the pleasure of the people that control the system, right? The controllers. And they all are working so that doesn't happen. They're trying to make themselves useful and they're trying to be on the right side of things. Because if the mob needs a sacrifice, they could be it, right? That's how all this stuff works. You see it now with Erika J. Kirk, right? Like that shit's turning quickly on her. This is like also the year of accountability. This is some accountability, not like what's coming, but this is an indication of this kind of stuff, right?
That's the pushback on Fox. Other outlets in the conservative universe saying Trump should fire Kristi Noem. More Republicans disagreeing with this policy, expressing concern with the administration.
Okay, so this was this guy, right? So then by that night when I, turn on CNN, and unfortunately CNN does not post pretty much any videos on YouTube anymore. I don't know what they do at TikTok, but I didn't even look there. And they don't put a lot of stuff on X. And they have like, if you go to their show, you go to CNN, they have like, like you can subscribe for so much stuff, so you can stream all their bullshit. They're trying to fucking, have their own streaming plan. CNN fucking Plus Revisited. But, I turned on Abby Phillips she does this roundtable. It's always arguing. And one woman basically said that Melania Trump's the devil. And it was this great quote, because Melania Trump has not mastered the English language. Like, and she's got that shitty movie out. But she was trying to, like, you know, kind of be almost neutral on this ICE thing, and then somebody slammed her. Anna Navarro was on there with, I think, Mr. Wonderful. And I guess Mr. Wonderful gets his blood transfusion. There was a thing that my wife sent me that I didn't, you know, show you here. But anyways, you know, Anna Navarro was on, and they were starting to gloat. You know, so by the morning, the polls went south. By the end of the day, the liberals were always like, the liberals are already like, oh, we told you so. We were going to do. Like, after all the Joe Biden bullshit. And that's what sucks about this. You know, as soon as Trump implodes, which he will, these liberal motherfuckers will be intolerable. I mean, it's just, you know, I was like, and I can't show the clips, but they were all being so smug, and, you know, we were right all along, and look at what this guy's doing, and, you know, and yeah, you guys were on the opposite side, but you weren't right all along. The reason you have Trump 2.0 is because you fucked up on Joe Biden, right? But again, they'll be intolerable, and this is how this shit always goes, because none of these people are about telling the truth. They're riding the wave of public opinion and trying to manipulate public opinion, and then when it goes south, you know, they try to distance themselves from their own stances and things that they said or votes if they're, you know, a politician on certain, you know, policies. But it's because they're not concerned about, you know, they're working. It's like the Charlie Kirk dilemma. You know, he's working for fucking Israeli, you know, he's an Israeli shill. He's taking his shekels. And then the public opinion turns on, even for his own audience, especially for his own audience, turns on Israel. What does he do? He's working, he's controlled by these group of people, and yet if he continues to support them, he's going to lose his audience. And that's how this thing that all these people navigate, right? So let me show you a few other things about this. So my wife had sent me this video on Reddit, and Reddit has already taken the videos down, that one woman's, and CNN is putting a big warning on these videos. But let me show you this here. So, see, this person here is getting in the face of this very small ICE agent, right? So Alex Peretti, he's like fucking Bill, like he's got like, the fuck is he wearing, right? So this is from a different angle. I want to show you both angles. But this shove here, like, you know, it looks like it's prepared. Like this guy's like, hey, stop, please knock it off. So this woman here, this very small dude or woman, you know, and this woman here, it looks like she's already preparing a fall. Like, right? And then she goes flying over there, and then they start beating the shit out of him. Right? So this is where that stuff goes south. And now they're kind of moving to a location, like a stage location. You know, I mean, it just looks a little like fucking acted here. You know, like all these guys are coming in. You know, there was that initial reaction. Now, again, this might be organic. I'm not saying for sure it's fake. It just looks really fake. I'm going to turn that fucking whistle shit off. Okay, we know what happened there, right? Here is the... Okay, they have it stopped here. I don't know why. Focusing on it. See, they're showing that they have the gun here. This guy's walking away with the gun. So there's that. So here's this original video here. This woman's coming in here, right? So these two start going at it here, right? She comes in, and then this woman starts talking to this ICE-like woman, really small. Both of them are very small. And see how she takes this step forward to push her like as hard as she can, right? Like this is, you know, of course, this is not being talked about. You know, whatever she's doing, this is like uncalled for, but it looks kind of fake. Like she goes flying, right, into the snowbank, and then he comes in, and they're like, all right, let's beat the shit out of this guy. And then he's against the car, and they're trying to help her up, and they grab him and pull him away, even though he's not interacting with them. And it's kind of looks, you know, the push right here to me is the most telling thing, right here. When she comes in, and watch her kind of wound up, like she's like, boom, right? And this is, look at these tiny little fucking people. And this push is going to send her flying over there. You know, I just, again, it looks a little WWE, like where they, you know, have this kind of like loose script about the thing, right? Or this guy comes in, you know, like I don't trust anything from the mainstream, whatever it is. And then all that stuff that happens, right? And the woman taping it. That whole thing. All right, so I just want to interject because that's part of what was going on. My wife and I watched it. I'm like, doesn't it look fucking fake? It looks kind of fake. So there's that. And so I want to back this up a little bit. This is Draymond Green, who has a podcast. You know, this guy who's always, he's a great player for a guy his size, and he gets into a lot of weird altercations, kicking dudes in the nuts and choking guys out, like this kind of stuff, right? But he was talking about what's going on in Minneapolis. He talked about how there's like what he said, 10 or 20,000 people on the street outside their hotel, right? This is before the shooting, and then the shooting, right?
We, you know, our game was postponed yesterday, but we move into today. We got out there and played. Interestingly enough, a 2-3-minute drive to the game for myself turned into a 17, 18-minute bus ride because we had to take an alternate route due to protests. You know, obviously not bashing anyone's protest, but just explaining to you all kind of.
Yeah, well, it's annoying as fuck, right? And this is why I talk about protests. You know, you could say the protesters get a win here because Trump is having to back up a little bit, or, you know, that they're starting to, you know, question if Republicans are turning on him. You say, well, the protests had an effect on this, but I think this is more staged than anything else, whatever that might be. But protests are really inconvenient. Like if you are, you know, he said a 2-minute bus ride, they had to fucking, here it's like he said.
What it's been like to be in Minnesota over the weekend.
You know, so it's just annoying for everybody else. Like, it's not, these things don't have an effect. I mean, whatever limited success there is, it's almost always backfires. It's already backfired quite a bit because they've stepped up their tactics because of the protests. You know, back in the days of Gandhi and Martin Luther King and some of these other, there was some effect only because there was backing by the powers that be. If the powers that be want to use a protest to change things, then they'll back the protesters. But only that. It's not anything other than that, right? And so, you know, think about how a 2-minute drive turns into a 17, 20-minute drive, and all the people that then that affects, and then the traffic grows around it just because of these people, you know, whining and doing their little bitchy thing, right? So that's another factor. But this is what I want to get to here. Fucking Don Lemons and Megyn Kelly. So, you know, I said this in the beginning of the video. This video is going up as soon as I get it because it's like very timely. And so it's important. The sooner I get it up, the better for view count. But I might skip all day tomorrow because I put up so much content in a short period. We'll see how that goes. See what happens today. See how topical it is, how time sensitive it is. But this video will go up on Wednesday today. And the next video will be up on Thursday, and if not, I'll skip Friday, or who knows what it will be, right? But, you know, there'll be some time to catch up on the videos for those of you who want to watch all this content. I mean, you know, I don't think there's very few people that have the time to do it, but it's there. All right, so this is Don Lemons, and then we're going to get to Megyn Kelly, and then the big fucking bombshell shit, the Kaboom stuff with Candace Owens.
So you know the Republican Party is the party of the Second Amendment.
There's that little dog there.
Second Amendment is sacrosanct. Remember that with the Republican Party. You're supposed to be able to carry your gun wherever you want, you know, fire, concealed or whatever. You know, I don't have to tell you that.
Because you don't know what you're talking about.
But things seem kind of different now. So I'm wondering, does the Republican Party actually believe in the Second Amendment, or is it just for them a lie that they can use or some sort of cudgel that they use against the left? Do they actually not believe in it only if it benefits them? I mean, I'm kind of answering my own question, but I mean, it's not a rhetorical question. I'm genuinely curious.
Genuinely curious. You know, fucking, when the wheels start turning,
if they believe in the right to bear arms. Because you guys remember Kyle Rittenhouse, right? Remember Kyle Rittenhouse?
Jesus Christ, I brought Kyle Rittenhouse up.
Kyle Rittenhouse had a gun, an AR-15 strapped to him. I think he like purchased it to reportedly for this, to go to this protest. But Kyle Rittenhouse, anyways, the reporting is that Kyle Rittenhouse crossed state lines in August of 2020 with an AR-15, that he killed 2 people, and he claimed self-defense. And then MAGA...
Well, it looked kind of like self-defense. That was, I think, another fake thing. I talked about that yesterday.
Just kind of wrapped him in the flag and just, oh my gosh, Kyle Rittenhouse, and he should get off, and, They turned him into a celebrity, a folk hero. They told us that the Second Amendment meant armed teenagers roaming the streets were patriots. But
this dog's fucking limping around back there.
Clearly, something in the last 5 years has changed. Something in the last 5 minutes has changed for them as it relates to what's happening.
It hasn't, because this is one of the things that has turned on Trump, right? Like Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, and Kristi Noem, these guys are idiots, and so they're excluding all smart people. All people with a pulse, all people who are conscious. There are some smart people that are still falling for this, but it's like, I was talking about this with, did I talk about it early on, or did I talk about it with Candace? I don't know. It's either coming or it was I already talked about it. But my wife and I just stopped watching this shitty show called Land to Man. That guy, Tyler Sheridan or whatever his name is. He makes shitty stuff. And it was like the antidote to all the liberal agenda, the feminist agenda, all the woke shit that was in all these other movies, these action movies that were now starring feminist women with their rants about how women are taking it, and like women aren't being kept down. All this stuff, that was just rants and political agenda, and all the stuff with the trans stuff and all the, all this woke shit that was, all this stuff. Like, I talk about this all the time. But, the stuff that he puts out there is so fucking stupid. And so, like, shit that would never happen, and, just for drama or for, the characters are just, they don't make any sense. Like, there's these 2 women in the show that are the mother and the daughter, and they're both dressed like hoes the whole time, and they're drinking and partying and totally, totally self-centered. And then she decides to go into a retirement home and bring a bunch of booze in there, and somehow the orderly, like, she sneaks in there. They're all wearing party hats, and so she's in a fucking retirement home where people are on medication. They're in wheelchairs. They're like 90 years old, and she brings in a bunch of fucking margaritas, makes margaritas with salt on the glass, right? And butts out some fucking raunchy board game, and these people are sitting around with bedazzled in like party attire, and an orderly shows up and goes, "Hey, you can't drink it here." Like, it just, things that just don't happen. The show fucking sucks. But for right-wing dopes, it's like they just don't care, right? They want to, it's what they believe. The same thing with this liberal agenda. But for the rest of us, it just fucking totally sucks, right? And these guys all just, they pander to the stupid. Don Lemons can't talk to the intelligent because he's like one of the dumbest motherfuckers out there. But on the other hand, you have the extreme cunty. So here you have the opposite, which not the opposite because they're both manipulative. You have the cunty, manipulative, not as stupid Megyn Kelly. And so there's the stupid versus the cunty. Right?
Let's do it this way. Can we play Natalie Portman? Natalie Portman is super upset. I'm going to show you some breaking news about the man she's crying over. But here's Natalie Portman.
What's going on in our country right now is absolutely horrific with what the federal government, Trump's government, Kristi Noem, ICE, what they're doing is really the worst of humanity. And then we also have the best of humanity for the way people are showing up for each other in
yeah, those protests aren't the best of humanity.
Community and Americans coming out to support each other.
Yeah, why don't you get out there in the street with them? Why don't you go embrace the Minneapolis cold, like fucking sub-zero temperatures and go out there with these fucking retarded liberals.
And protect each other and fight against injustice. So I could not be prouder to be American right now by the way the Americans are acting. And I could not be sadder to be American right now with the way the government is behaving.
Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional because
She's such a good actress.
it's really been, it's such a horrible day. It's been a horrible week. And it's very joyful to be at a film festival and in a
So joyful to be at a film festival when guys are getting shot in Minneapolis.
creative community celebrating film together. But what is happening in our country is just obscene. And
It's obscene. Fucking obscene, these obscene motherfuckers.
Trump and Kristi Noem and ICE are doing to our citizens is, and to undocumented people is outrageous and
It's outrageous. It's so outrageous.
needs to end.
Okay. No one gives a shit about Natalie Portman's political opinion.
Yeah, so why'd you show us that? Like, no one does give a shit about it. No one said, I wonder what Natalie Portman thinks about this fucking ICE thing. Other than her, scant amount of followers, or whatever it is. And she's not even on social media. So why'd you even bother to show that, right? Like, you always, bring in this celebrity bullshit. It's just the fucking, I don't.
She's representative of these far-left loons, the Karen Intifada that we've been watching in Minneapolis. And that was after we learned about the death of Alex Preddy on Saturday. She managed to gin up some tears. She's an actress, so yeah.
Yeah, so are you.
Over this guy.
Okay, continuing here. I got a phone call. I had to stop.
Because he was just like this poor innocent guy. And the left won't even really, they're not even loving the term protester for him. It's like they're basically calling him like a good Samaritan.
You mean like calling Charlie Kirk a saint? You mean it's like that kind of bullshit? Like that kind of shit, Megan? Like that kind of stuff?
Just directing traffic. He was interfering with a federal law enforcement operation. He was not directing traffic like, hey, watch out for the federal officers. He was like, yeah, right this way.
Okay, but most of us realize what Trump is doing there is bullshit. And you should too. You fake truther. Look at that fucking male chin right there. Look at that fucking, it's like a big erection right there in their fucking face.
If you want to block ICE, he was obviously an agitator, an anti-ICE agitator. That's been really clear. We, of course, have reported that here at the MK Show and on AM Update. And now we get this report from CNN. It just hit right before we came to air. And it is the headline from CNN in a piece by Jeff Winter and Priscilla Alvarez is Alex Preddy broke rib in confrontation with federal agents a week before death, sources say. I'll give you the highlights now. And then we're bringing on Ruth.
Look, that was not a good angle for this school. Look at that shit. Holy shit. What the fuck? Think that, you can turn that into a dude real quickly.
I'll give you the highlights now. And then we're bringing on Ruthless to react. Federal immigration officials or officers have been collecting personal information about protesters and agitators in Minneapolis, sources told CNN, and had documented details about Alex Preddy before he was shot to death on Saturday. It is unclear how Preddy first came to the attention of federal authorities, but sources told CNN that about a week before his death, he suffered a broken rib when a group of federal officers tackled him while he was protesting their attempt to detain other individuals. The earlier incidents.
So you're using this like that he got his ass kicked before? You're using this as a way to disparage this guy? The thing is, Megyn Kelly on Bombshell new article about Alex Preddy's past. About his past. He got his ass kicked and they broke his rib? And you're disparaging them that way? Like he was some kind of, like if he broke a federal agent's rib, if it was the opposite way, then you'd have something. If he had hurt a federal agent before, then you at least have that, right? Like, Jesus Christ, she won't jump off this fucking boat when everyone else on Fox and all these people, like she's so much worse than even Fox News.
Started when Preddy stopped his car after observing ICE agents chasing what he described as a family on foot and began shouting and blowing his whistle.
That's what they do. It's so awesome. They're good whistleblowers. They're good at blowing. I think a fucking bird just hit the window.
according to a source who asked not to be named out of fear of retribution. Preddy later told the source that 5 agents tackled him and 1 leaned on his back, an encounter that left him with a broken rib. The agents quickly released him at the scene.
You know, a broken rib and being out on the street a week later, that just doesn't, I mean, you know, broken ribs are unbelievably painful, right? And, you know, you have trouble breathing. It's fucking freezing cold out there. So, I mean, you know, it's very suspect.
That day, he thought he was going to die, said the source. Preddy was later given medication consistent with treating a broken rib, according to the records reviewed by CNN. So they have confirmed that he was in some sort of an altercation with ICE, leaving him with his broken rib. The form titled Intel Collection Non-Arrests allows agents to fill in personal information of agitators and protesters who they
Okay, let's move forward to where she comments on this.
him before they confronted him. If they did, it would be highly relevant, of course, but it's not necessary. What this is confirmation that this guy was out there looking for a fight.
What a fucking cunt.
If they did, it would be highly relevant, of course, but it's not necessary. What this is confirmation that this guy was out there looking for a fight. He had already interfered with ICE conduct.
Her dumb fuck audience, and this is how fucking retarded this whole thing is. And now the left is going to be gloating. Like, wait till this whole thing implodes and they win the midterms. They're going to be fucking intolerable. You guys didn't like the left under Biden. Wait till the left wins. Wait till the aftermath of fucking Trump. And you guys get your asses handed to you. Just like all those. Remember how the QBs all disappeared? They tucked their fucking retarded tails under the retarded asses, under the retarded legs. And they fucking walked, you know, when Trump went out on January 6th, and they had all these, you know, Q had promised all these 10,000 sealed indictments and all this shit that was going to happen. And Trump said the storm was coming, and they all were like, you know, pleasuring themselves. And they were, you know, the fucking, all the QBs. And then when the thing imploded and January 6th happened and all those QBs were arrested and Trump was deplatformed and they realized they got fucked. All these stupid fucking QBs, and they were like out there. And then, of course, they came back around because they were too stupid not to, you know, not to take the lesson. But that's how it's going to be. Like when Trump goes out, and these fucking liberals and Democrats are going to be just intolerable. I mean, it's going to be so fucking bad, and it's all because you guys suck. The fucking Trumpers suck so bad. All right, so again, I want to get this video up. I got all this stuff to do with Candace. I just I made it last night. I made the clips, most of them last night and some of them this morning. Let's go to that. And then I got a quick voiceover to do, and then we'll get this thing up as soon as possible here. Okay, so just to give a little context of what's going on, you know, just in terms of my, you know, I don't want to use the word process, but I'm going to use the word process. Well, I went to graduate school. I have a master's in counseling. I went to graduate school in a very liberal school in Santa Fe, New Mexico, for transpersonal psychology counseling. You know, it was a school that offered an art therapy program and a counseling program, art therapy, counseling, and counseling program. And it had a lot of new age people and all these things. And I used to joke about how, and there's a lot of sharing. And I used to joke about how the word process in Santa Fe was like aloha. It meant like 14 different things, right? People would use the word process. I'm in process, you know, these things. They'd use it as a noun and a verb and all this stuff. But in terms of my own personal process here, and that just the way it, you know, in the original definition. My wife and I were watching Landman, and she had heard some things from people who are Republicans, I think mostly. And I, you know, the guy Taylor Sheridan, his shows suck. They're so formulaic, and you know, there's things that happen like accidents, like this guy jumping up on these pipes and all the pipes fucking fall on top of him. You know, like he's a guy who's been working there for 30 years, and he's bitching that the people sent him these pipes, and he's on top of the pipes, and he jumps them up and down on them, and these fucking straps, you know, they just put these pipes on some kind of, you know, truck to ship them out. And when you put these straps on, you know, just, you guys get the idea. like things that would never happen, and just to cause these traumas. And his shows suck. And they have a lot. And I'm like, this is the right wing dopes that still buy into Trump's bullshit, right? You know, I was over the left wing and Joe Biden for quite some time. You know, it's just like it became intolerable. You know, when it was so obvious the guy was senile and they refused to fucking admit it. And this is the same thing with this, right? You know, people like there's those stupid things where they say Trump was always right. Trump doesn't know shit. Like he's an incurious person. He doesn't know. He doesn't research anything. He's not an in-depth thinker. He's not somebody who has an internal world. It's not somebody who's reflective. He doesn't know shit. He's not a truth teller. He repeated some things that ended up being true. And, you know, that was like 10% of his bullshit and stuff that he didn't even know, but he just parroted it, those things. And then they came out and said Trump is always right. You know, like it's just stupid. You know, just I had to take a break for a second. But Joe Biden, you know, when I do these things late at night, I tend to yell. I don't know why, you know, because I think I'm not as, you know, it's more of a struggle. It's not my usual rhythm and timing. You know, I did this thing at 2 o'clock in the morning. It was like a 2 o'clock in the morning rant. I wasn't all angry or anything like that, but, you know, it's a different kind of vibe and energy when I make these videos late at night. So going back to it, when Joe Biden, you know, I knew he was senile in 2019. I knew he had mental issues. Now, of course, I have some diagnostic ability, and I'm introverted and dyslexic, and there's certain things that I have that are, you know, whatever. But I think most people could see the guy was falling apart, right? He was not well, you know, and it was easy to see. And the Democrats didn't come back out after they finally admitted. You know, it was like, oh, he's senile in 2024. No, he was senile in 2019. And before that, he had Parkinson's and he had prostate cancer. And you guys covered it up for 5 years, and then all of a sudden you saw it, and you didn't acknowledge all of us that did before that. And the same thing with Trump. You know, lots of Republicans are bailing on Trump now. But back, you know, 8 years ago when he first ran, I said, yeah, this guy's an ass clown, but it's funny. It's hilarious that he's running for president. And it was hilarious that he won because he was an ass clown, right? But, you know, I knew about Trump when he was on The Apprentice. Like, I knew what kind of person he was. And so, you know, when you're right about these things, when you're actually right, and I've been right quite a bit, and I don't give a shit about it. But the one good thing about it is when the people who have been wrong forever, if they're good people, they come to you and say, you know, you were right all along. But they never do that. When you're in the truth community, they never fucking do that. Because they're weak, fucking worthless people. And when they discover something, like Tucker Carlson recently has some brushes with the truth community, and now Candace Owens, they pretend they invented it. Like, we haven't been around here for fucking years and years, right? The truth community has been around since before I was born, and there's been this information out there, and some of us excel at it and some of us don't. But, you know, a lot of us have been here before, and they, you know, were right, but were right months ahead of time or years before these other people. And they never give it up. They never say, hey, you guys were right. You know, you guys are, you know, they'll say, hey, those crazy conspiracy theorists were kind of right about this. Yeah, we were kind of right about everyone, the real ones, right? Because it isn't fucking hard to see. So let's start here. This is a leaked audio, and Candace Owens is talking about where she got it.
Accountable to the public. Always they are allowed to ask questions, even if you...
She needs to be held accountable here because she's a piece of shit, just like Erika Kirk. And this is going to be a double reveal. Double fucking reveal.
want to send out a bunch of cease and desist letters. And thanks to this recent string of misguided firings, that's putting it mildly, we did happen to get our hands on an audio recording of a corporate-wide Zoom call, which took place pretty immediately following Charlie's memorial.
Okay, so that's very vague. So when did you get this? Now, she's claiming it's because there are a lot of these bad firings. And that one audio I played in my last video that she had, and not only Candace, I think other people had, there was an audio released of a woman getting fired. And, you know, the person firing her is being a total dick. It's a TPUS gay dick, right? And it looks more like an information drop they do with the CIA or what are these intelligence communities, right? Because it looks pretty fake. Like, you're firing this woman, and when you're doing something this dickish, and the internet is what it is, you think that these TP US gay twinks, who some of them got to be pretty smart, right, would say, make sure nobody records what's happening here on their way fucking out. If you're going to fire people in a total dickish way, someone who claims to have worked 90 hours a week and has been working tirelessly, which is, going to be, part of this leaked audio we're going to hear. You think that person might try to tape you on the way out? We live in a world of fucking people getting videos. Like I say, I say to my kids, when you see shit going down, and if there's some sort of conflict you're involved, take out your phone and start fucking recording, right? Because the people who get the video are the ones that end up being the heroes, and the people on the video end up being the villains. Like, that's how things work, right? You can be in an argument. We've, heard of a person that we know, my wife and I, that was in a fight with her sister, an argument, and her sister baited her into, like, attacked her physically, and then when she retaliated, was on videotape, and then, these are older women, and now she has a felony. Like, fucking, like, this is how people roll. And so, getting your cameras out is a key thing, and you think the people at TPUS Gay didn't know this one was taping them or whatever? Like, it seems very suspect, right? And so, that thing, all these people were fired, and now Candace Owens is very vaguely saying that they got their hands on this. What does it mean you got your hands on it? Did she leak this somewhere else? Does somebody else have it and you're not giving them credit? Or did somebody come to you and give it to you? Or if you had this for fucking months and you weren't willing to reveal it, this is, other, like, not this Mitch Snow shit or Egyptian planes. This is real incriminating shit about Erika Kirk, right? And somebody leaked this thing. And is it now? Like, you're saying we got our hands on. What does that fucking mean? Like, you're not saying that somebody gave it to you. Because it would have to be somebody on this call. And you're outing this source. It's like only a handful of people. Like, you just got somebody else fired if they didn't get fired already. Or whatever might be, like, they might be some kind of action taken against them because they recorded this thing. Or, all this stuff, right? And so this is just Candace Owens being a piece of shit right off the bat. Because maybe she's had this for months. Like, you won't know because she's a lying piece of shit, right? But let's get to the tape here. So this is something that they talked about Erika Kirk here. The president's tone, she said, was soft and embracing. I could tell he wanted to hug me. Others have responded in the same manner to Mrs. Kirk, now left to care for her 3-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son. That new life, Miss Kirk said, is actually the least traumatizing thing for me, since she herself had been raised by her mother after her parents' divorce when she was young. So then there's something here with all this stuff here. This is her fucking timeline. We don't need to see that. So here's where the call begins.
Emoji. Zoom.
Here, wait. This is her talking right after the memorial. She's pumped like they just pulled off this epic memorial, and she's hobnobbed with all these celebrities. She no longer is second fiddle to Charlie, and she's, hugging Trump and throwing up the devil's horns and fake crying. Like, remember how much she fake cried during that whole period of time? It looked so fucking fake. And then she comes out with this in this meeting.
Turning Point USA team for their work at the memorial event. So let's take a listen.
Hi, everybody. I still love all these emoji Zoom things.
So she comes in just being giddy and laughing, right? Now, we all knew it was fake, that she wasn't really crying, and she would cry, and the way that she did it, it was so fucking, it was bad acting. And we all knew it. And I think even the people that are fans knew it. They're just like, well, that's what people do. Like, you go to a funeral and people are fake crying, and they're doing it performatively. I mean, this happens regularly, and people who are in beauty contests and are bad actors and fake people, and people who aren't sincere, aren't authentic, and they don't even know how they really feel about shit, and they just fucking go out and cry. And we knew all that stuff about Erika Kirk. But we didn't really have much evidence until when she was, when President Trump gave her fucking Trump, when Donnie Shekels gave her, not President Trump, Donnie Shekels gave her the Medal of Freedom for her husband or whatever the fuck it is, the Medal of Freedom or whatever that, he came back from an overseas trip to honor Charlie on his fucking birthday. Remember that bullshit? It was probably about a month later, October 14th, I think it is. I'm just pulling that date out of, I don't know where, but it was, I think it was in mid-October. I think it was the 14th. And it was Charlie Kirk's birthday, and he was giving them the medal. And there was a video of her getting out of the car, and she was not crying at all. Remember, she did that thing where she dabbed the corner of her eyes, and she'd do this fake crying, and she'd go and she'd laugh, and then she'd fake cry. And we now saw when she wasn't in front of the camera, she was laughing and smiling, and she wasn't grieving at all. She didn't look at all sad. And so that was one of the few times, there's some backstage things we saw where she was like, look there smiling, and she went in and she wasn't crying, and then just she started walking out, she started making herself cry. There's some little bits of evidence here or there, right? But we all knew it was fake. And here she is doing it. The one thing I want to say about this is also, it seems like they're dropping these information packages to keep this thing going. Like this is some kind of just drama playing out for all of us. Like this whole thing, it seems inorganic, but let's get to it here.
Wow. I don't even know where to begin. The fact that we were able to pull off an event of a century.
You mean his assassination?
It's just insane. We had over 275,000 people that attended, and the stadium, overflow, Westgate, insane, you guys. And then you have, was it 100 million? Over. You guys that heard the gospel and all about Charlie and all about everything that you guys do, and the hard work of Turning Point USA is insane.
Turning Point USK. TPUSK.
We had thousands that were registered to vote. I think we're at over 200,000 for merch sales. Don't quote me on that, because I think it just keeps bumping up like crazy. But
good, you sold a lot of merch at his fucking funeral. He didn't have a real funeral. It was this gaudy thing with Trump at it and the fucking sparkles and all that shit. So you now see she wasn't grieving at all. She's done grieving, right?
Just wanted to say a huge, huge, huge thank you to the events team, the development team, the graphic design team, the production team. It's just phenomenal. They're
phenomenal.
Incredible work leading into the memorial. And honestly, a lot of the staff that worked on the memorial, they had 20-hour days for a week during the time of us grieving the loss of my husband.
Yeah, we were such good grievers. Remember how I was grieving? You know how good I am at grieving? Guys, I'm the best griever. I'm the best grifter. I mean griever.
And honestly, I know several staff that didn't even sleep. Again, you guys are breathing angels. And
breathing angels. And stop it. You're breathing all these angels inside. Stop breathing, because these angels are being sucked into your orifices. Jesus Christ.
I'm so grateful for all of you. And obviously a huge thank you to the Mosaic team. VI, you guys are 10 out of 10. It's
10 out of 10. I mean, I'm so happy. This is the best day of my life. I can't believe how happy I am. I mean, just so wonderful. It was so great. I'm a CEO, and this big event happened. I mean, Jesus, it was Charlie dying. It's the best thing that ever happened to me.
The most incredible team. We just do. And you guys know that, and you guys are all a part of that.
You guys are all part of that? You guys all were there? You were doing some work? You're all part of it? I'm the main part because I'm the president? I'm the head honcho now? But you guys are also part of that too? This is how great I am, and you're the best team ever? My team?
I am so, so thankful. And if you do have a moment and you run into any of those staff members that you know had a role in this, and that they put a lot of their time and effort into it, just say thank you.
Say thank you to them.
There's something really special to be seen in moments like this, and It's not easy. I'm speaking from experience. I'm right in the trenches with you
I'm
guys.
kind of in the trenches. Like, I don't know what the fuck you guys do, but I'm like right here with you. Like, I don't do any of the work, but I'm like right there in spirit.
And so the fact that you just, a simple thank you. I don't care if any of you have beef with each other from the past.
It sounds like you guys are getting along really shitty over there. I mean, you guys are always beefing and shit. I know you guys fucking hate each other, but like I know we're all Christians and shit, but you guys are all jelly of each other. You're all mean. You fucking.
Or have any issues with someone said something about this or that. Like, if you guys have any of that, please put it to rest.
Please put it to rest because, you know, I know that I'm not fucking anybody you signed on to be with. I know that probably most of you guys didn't even fucking like me and didn't really even know me. I've not really been a part of this thing. But, you know, I'm just going to tell you, like, if you have beef with some of your fellow coworkers, I'm just going to tell you, put it to rest because that always works when the boss says that. Like, almost all the time when the boss says, you guys who hate each other at work, put it to rest. I mean, when that happens, people are like, oh, yeah, I will put it to rest because we love our boss so much. Our boss that we don't even fucking know and we don't even like.
My husband's dead. Like, I'm not.
Wait, let's get back.
And so the fact that you just, a simple
Let's go back.
life is, and just put it to rest. My husband's dead. Like, I'm not trying to be morbid, but he's dead. And
I'm not trying to be morbid, but he's dead. Like, he's like fucking dead. And like, that's forever.
And it puts life into perspective of how short life is and relationships, and God puts people in your life for a reason, and it teaches you a lesson, it teaches them a lesson. So if you are going through a time where, just lay it to rest, and we are moving forward, Turning Point USA 2.0 with Charlie in our hearts. And that's
Charlie in our hearts, you know, 2.0 without Charlie. It's the post Charlie years. This is like 2.0. This is like life. This is like life after Charlie, right? After AC. Like this is Turning Point AC.
what he would want.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the chat here, and you guys are responding live in the way that I felt live listening to this. It is the general tone that is off-putting. It's the laughter that is off-putting. It's, again, we are not even 2 weeks after watching your husband be assassinated. We're talking about numbers and...
Okay, so, you know, the people are responding to that. There's something I want to show you from Candace coming up that's, like, very telling about her. There's 2 fucking bullshit things from her coming up. That's why I'm doing this now, late at night.
I'm just grateful that while things were still in motion and moving around, that we had our leadership teams provide for you counselors, pastors. I heard there were therapy dogs. Slightly jealous that I didn't get to have any moment with a therapy.
I mean, when your husband dies and you miss out, like how many husbands am I going to have that die? Like, this is my one chance for a therapy dog. I mean, maybe one of my kids will fucking have an early death and then I'll get the therapy dog thing. But like, I fucking missed out. I didn't. I was like, wait, you guys have therapy dogs? Why didn't I get a therapy dog?
Dog. Breakfast. I was really adamant about making sure that we paid.
I mean, listen to her laugh like a fucking cunt. Like, just.
Counselors, pastors. I heard there were therapy dogs. Slightly jealous that I didn't get to have any moment with a therapy dog. Breakfast. I mean,
imagine listening to this if you're like really like Charlie and you really believe the DPU is gay, and you listen to this cunt fucking.
I was really adamant about making sure that we paid for your flights, for your spouses to be there. That was something on my heart. You don't want to grieve alone. No one's supposed to grieve alone. It's not healthy.
I mean, I'm grieving like with everybody. Like I'm grieving in front of the cameras with Donald Trump. I mean, I'm grieving with J.D. Vance, and I'm grieving with Usha, you know, who I want to replace, but she got fucking pregnant. And I'm like, fuck. I thought I was going to be next, and I don't fucking know what's my thing. I don't know what's going on, but all these other people, all these famous people were out there, and I was grieving with all of them. We were all grieving together. It was like fucking really grievy out there. Really grifty, I mean greavy.
But I just think it's a beautiful honor that all of these benefits were made for the community to grieve and remember Charlie. And I really hope you took advantage of those in a healthy way when they were provided.
Yeah, not an unhealthy way. Like, no, I don't want any unhealthy grieving. I want you guys fucking taking advantage.
It's meant to be for everyone for healing. Grief comes in waves.
Like some days, like I don't grieve for like 2 weeks, and then I'm in front of a camera and I'm talking about Charlie, and all of a sudden a wave of grief will come out, and I'll put my snot rag in my eyes. Remember, I had this whole thing about watch her snot rag, and she stuck it in the couch. Like she did an interview.
Some days are going to be tougher than others, but take it as it comes, and that's why you have your Turning Point family, and just
Turning Point US Gay.
Lean on them and lean on other people in your life that will help you and pour into you and pray with you to get you through it. I say that, though, that if you do need more time to grieve, please continue to use Turning Point USA's network of counselors.
All the counselors that we have, the counselors who hate each other, they're jelly of each other, and they always get into bullshit with each other.
We have pastors. I mean, there are so many resources for you. If you do need additional time off, please talk to your director about using paid time off for that. And again, it's not easy, but again, grief is hard.
Again, grief is hard.
Otherwise,
okay, back to it. I had my moment of like grieving there for a second. You guys saw that I was grieving like there, like I said, in waves. All of a sudden, I had a 2-second wave of grief, and back I'm all peppy again.
Honestly, Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action, full steam ahead, you guys.
Full steam ahead. I mean, if you want to grieve, like we're going for you non-grievers like me, we'll go in full steam ahead.
Charlie would want us to get back to work, and that's what we're doing, and that's what we did with the memorial, and I'm so honored and proud of each and every one of you because
Charlie would totally want to get us back to work. He was like, "Don't grieve for too long, just come on, you guys. What am I paying for you with all my fucking shekels you guys are taking? Get out there. Like I'm not paying you shekels to grieve."
We're gonna do in his honor and in his name. We have so much to do, which is exciting.
So exciting. It's very exciting. I'm so excited right now. Everything's going my way. Everything's fucking coming up, Erika.
Charlie in heaven is like, you guys thought you had a busy schedule then, just you wait. And he's doing some awesome things with Jesus in heaven right now.
What are they doing? Are they playing like hopscotch and fucking banging hookers? Like, what are they fucking doing up there? What are him and Jesus doing? Are they looking down and going, my God, thank God I escaped from this bitch, right? What is he fucking doing in heaven? What do you think he's like in heaven? Do you think he has a brain? You think he has a mind? Like his soul, what do you think his soul is like? You think his soul is Charlie, like it's totally, everything you knew from Charlie is a part of his soul? And he has all these memories and association. He's looking down from some imaginary place in the sky. He's looking down, you guys going, oh my God, you guys thought you were busy before. Wait till now that I'm fucking dead. This is going to be so amazing. Like, what do you think's happening? It's so fucking weird, right? It's so fucking like childish and immature.
There's so much work to be done. I mean, since his assassination, we have hundreds.
Like assassination, remember that? That was like a couple of weeks. It seems like a year ago now. Remember that fucking thing, that little guy that did that? Of course she wants to move on. Of course she wants to fucking settle the fucking death thing. She can't wait to jump into this thing, right? Like, she can't wait till, like, she doesn't have to fake grieve in public anymore. She did this for, like, fucking 3 months, right? Where she was fake crying, and then finally she got through some of these interviews without crying on Fox, when Charlie's book was released, but she still did some crying. Then she was angry, and she lashed out, and she was going after the haters and all that shit, and now there's fucking all this other stuff that's happened. But, like, she couldn't wait to, like, put the fucking grieving part behind because she's not a fucking human being. Fucking alien bitch, right, that comes out here. It's joking around. I mean, it's just, of course she was, like, fucking wants to move on.
100,000 chapter requests. We have 300,000 new donors. That is a blessing in itself. Again, not normal.
It's just not normal. Fucking totally not normal.
I think we have 50,000 plus hat orders to fulfill.
Oh, we got so many fucking hat orders.
I mean, I'm saying these numbers because it puts into perspective that
what a cunt I am.
We're not just sitting and thinking and looking at the wall being like, what do we do? Like that, there is so much to do. You have over 20,000 AmFest registrations.
There's a lot happening there, and none of it is what I would be expecting to happen there. So basically what the employees said to me was that they got onto this call and...
I know, so these employees are calling you. Is that what you're saying? And they're leaking this thing? That's what happened? Just happened? When did this happen? That when they did this, right? So, like, you know, she's not sincere. Like she said, you're big about timelines. Do a timeline of when you got this information. Because if you've been sitting on this for a while, right?
Everyone's exhausted, everyone's been working, they pull off this massive memorial, and then there's kind of this approach where it's like, well, if you guys need paid time off, like Charlie's in heaven dancing, wanting you to work harder, he's just up there like, you better work, but you can use the paid time off that you have earned, by the way, if you need to grieve more. But imagine you're the employee and you're like, okay, well, this is his wife saying this, so am I weird?
Okay, so you know, she's making a valid point here, and I want to. This part is a valid point, but then she's going to say something that's fucked. But you know, this point that's coming up, and the point you just made, this is paid leave. You know, this is like stuff where they have this accrued vacation time or whatever it is, right? And they get to take it, and if this was a, you know, we love Charlie Kirk based mission, they believed in Charlie Kirk, then of course some of them want to take some days off, right? But they couldn't because they had this mega fucking event with the president coming. And so, and remember all the bullshit with the way they were manhandling this kid who was doing an interview. Remember all that shit? All these videos that disappeared, all the fucking way they went about it. I mean, it's just completely fucked.
Would I be like, I would be pretty weird if I needed to take time off and his wife is saying she's full steam ahead. That's the mentality that they had. Like, how are we supposed, like, are we weird for wanting to grieve? Is that not the vibe? How can we take paid time off?
Yeah, she didn't mean that at all. She didn't mean take paid time off. She meant, you know, I know some of you guys, you know, just she's addressing the grieving in the room and their lack thereof, right? Like, so if some of you guys need to grieve, go ahead. Like, it's okay. She's saying that stuff, and she's saying to the managers, yeah, don't let anybody grieve, right? Like that kind of thing. That's kind of fucking thing an evil fucking villain leader would do. But here's a fucked up part coming here, I think.
When Erika, his wife, is saying full steam ahead.
She said Erika's wife. You meant Charlie's wife.
Very strange. It is even kind of using this idea of Charlie being in heaven, looking down, and the laughter. I don't know. I feel like the rest of you. I feel uncomfortable. And of course, now what we're going to listen to is her pivot to the future vision, because that's what the bulk of this is about. And it's going to consist of the notebooks that I keep telling you the public is never going to see. Apparently, what I gather from this is that Charlie presented to the staff a vision for 2025, but Erika is going to say that there was a vision beyond that, all the way to 2030, and there's a project 2030. And then she's...
All right, so let's listen to this, because it's after this being that she... here.
Was that he always mind of my husband.
Wait,
there's a project 2030. And then she's going to kind of want to say that she's happy, but then catch herself realizing that that would be kind of weird to say that she's happy. Take a listen.
The prophetic mind of my husband.
Okay, so if he was a prophet, then why the fuck did he duck, right? You know, like, he's not a prophet. Like, he's not anything. And Candace Owens is going to praise him, too. And I'm going to call them both out for that because he's a piece of shit. But that's coming. Let's get into this other stuff here.
Was that he always planned for the future. You guys are obviously aware of like Vision 2025, but Charlie was also working on Vision 2030 in the
Vision 2030, remember?
Leading up to September 10th, and he was working really closely with Justin, and that's why Justin had been appointed the role of...
See, if Charlie was prophetic, aside from his assassination, which I joke about how he could have avoided that, when they talk about he was special, he was a prophet, and he was a time traveler, as Candace Owens said. You know, TPUSK is done. I mean, it's going to attract the lowest level cult-like followers, but it's never coming back. They don't have anybody to fill his shoes, and if they do, it's got to be somebody better than him, right? Because the memory of somebody, like the memory of Jesus, like people's imaginary Jesus, is better than Jesus. If the majority of Christians met Jesus, they would be disappointed. And they were like, that's not Jesus. So they would, almost none of them would think he's Jesus. If Jesus is incarnated right now, which he could be, and you met him, you would not know it's Jesus and probably not like him, like most of the Christians would. Because he would say shit that the religious Christians wouldn't be able to take or deal with, right? Like that's how this stuff always works. And so anybody coming in would have to be better than Charlie because they're competing against the memory of Charlie. But as long as his fucking cunt ex-wife, this woman is fucking running the thing, it just keeps on getting worse for her. Like every day, new old shit comes up or something like this comes up. It makes her look like a fuck. And the rest of the TPUSK, those two twinks, like it's tanking. TPUSK is dead. There's no vision for 2030. There's nothing beyond this. And Charlie Kirk himself was outed because he backed Israel and the Republican young youth was going against Israel. He backed Trump when Trump is imploding. Like the Republican Party's imploding now, and will continue to do so. And so, Charlie was going out as a joke, right? Like he was entering into a where he himself was free falling.
COO because he was literally, I remember phone calls when Charlie and I would take our night walks and it would be 10 o'clock at night and him and Justin would just be talking about the plans. I was aware of the plans. I have his journals that are aware of the plans.
His journals are aware of the plans too? Like you have them all, their secret journals? Like, is this like when the Mormons found the secret scriptures of Jesus in the middle of fucking Missouri or some shit like that? Is this kind of thing? Only you have access to it. Remember, Betty? Remember when they used to not let people read the Bible? Like you couldn't own a Bible if you were a Christian. It was written in Latin, and the majority of people didn't speak Latin, so only the pastors did. They wouldn't let you have a Bible, right? That kind of thing.
Like there is no confusion of what's to come. And I want to give you guys that.
Were you planning on this thing right now? Were you planning this thing was going to be a part of that? Was this a part of the? Is this part of the plan right now?
Reassurance that it's full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead.
And the board and I are working with Justin and the executive leadership teams to make sure that all of those plans come into effect 2030 and beyond. But I, again, am so grateful for all of you. I'm so proud of all of you. You honor my husband so well. All of you do. And
fuck that guy.
It's weird to say I'm excited. I really hesitate saying that. It's really
I'm so excited. I already said it, but I'm going to say it now that it's weird.
Hard for me to say that.
It's really hard, but I say it pretty easily.
It's a really weird thing to say, but I think it comes from a space of peace, knowing that God's using this and we're humbly witnessing the gospel in real time.
Yeah, that's not right. You're imploding, bitch.
I don't know what to say. She doesn't want to say she's happy. I don't want to say I'm happy, but where it comes from, I'm going to explain the happiness. I feel it comes from peace, because we're witnessing the gospel in real time.
This is where she says a fucked up thing here.
All of this makes my skin crawl. It genuinely makes my skin crawl. I'm going to go ahead and say that. You can go find your commentator who's going to tell you everybody grieves differently. Nope, that is less than 2 weeks after Charlie was publicly assassinated. That doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right to, I would say, the majority of people, or that doesn't feel right. Knowing that they're joyous at dinners. And again, this is when people who did not know Charlie could not stop crying and were sending me emails, who've never met Charlie, who didn't even know what Turning Point USA was, because they watched his assassination.
Yeah, so they're so sad.
Nation could not stop crying and pull themselves together. That is not the emotion that we're getting there. Like I said, the entire call is upbeat, and the portions where we are even speaking about grief, it feels like an obligation. Like, you know, hey, you got the dogs, and what Charlie wants is for you to work now. And that is how the employees that I've spoken to who were on that call, that's how they felt. My assumption,
how many of them did you speak to?
By the way, why I'm addressing this now is because my assumption, watching everything that's gone on, my assumption was that she really was trying to figure things out. I assumed in the silence, right? She wasn't doing interviews then. I assumed she couldn't get out of bed. I assumed that she couldn't pick her head up. And I felt that people were being unfair in judging outfits and in judging, whether.
Fuck you. Fuck you. You lying fucking cunt. Fuck you. Right? Because either you didn't know, like you legitimately didn't know, and what you're saying is true, but this isn't true. You knew all along. Like, you know, she will turn on somebody when she said recently, Trump is now the deep state. He's now because I've decided he's the deep state now. Now, because I finally have gotten here, and you know, and I know that I'm done with Trump and Trumpers, so you know, I now he's the deep state. Now this guy's the deep state. Now Ben Shapiro, who I used to work for, was a piece of shit. Now he is. Like before, when I was there, I didn't, you know, he was great. But now, right? So this is her bullshit. Because so many of her followers, all of us, we saw through it right away. It was a bad acting job. All the liberals and most of the truth community and most of the people that were waiting for her to criticize Erika Kirk. But she wasn't ready to do that for whatever reason. And who knows how long she's had this tape and some of this other stuff, or how much of a script this is. So either she knew and decided to play along and lie to her audience. Remember, she rolled out a tape about one of Erika Kirk's horrible speeches, and she talked about how inspirational Erika Kirk was, right? Or maybe she thought she was going to get back into TPUSK. You know, who knows? Was it scripted? Was it she was being political? She didn't feel like it was safe yet to go after a grieving widow like the rest of us. But don't lie to us and pretend that you fucking knew, that you thought she was grieving silently. She had this funeral 11 days, whatever it was, after she gave a speech. She even mocked her for that weird coffin thing she did where someone was filming her. She went out and went on Instagram the day after her husband died and that weird fake crying. You didn't think she was fake crying that whole time? You think it was unfair for us to mock her for fake fucking grieving? We were the fucking problem? But now, so if that's what you actually thought, then why the fuck is anybody listening to you, you piece of shit, right? It's a little bit late. Why is anybody listening to you? You have an audience of millions of people. Why are people listening to you when they knew about Erika before you did? They were trying to get you to move along. You know, I talked about that other woman who is, you know, who is finally coming to terms with this idea that Trump his assassination attempt was fake, right? And she was saying she couldn't wrap her mind around it, even though her audience members were always saying it to her. Like, if your audience has to move you in the right direction, then why the fuck are they listening to you? Why are they watching you, right? I mean, you should be ahead of the game. You should be in the know. You should be somebody who has something that they're going to learn from you, right? And so, you know, and what about all of us who knew from day one? Why don't you promote us like all the people who are making videos? And I was here 3 months before you. I knew the very day, the first time I saw Erika Kirk, oh my God, this is great. You guys can remember. Like, I immediately called it out. Like, other people weren't calling out, and people were coming to my channel and saying, thank God somebody's calling this thing out, right? You know, I was doing it on fucking day one. And so I was there 3 months ahead of you. And so what are you even talking about? Like, why are you doing this, like, as a job? Or you have nothing to offer people. If you can't come out and tell them the truth when it's, you know, when in the early stages, not after it's too fucking late. The truth needs to be told immediately. You know, now it's okay. Like now, you know, now when you get there, then it's the truth. When you finally arrived there, what about all the people that were there first? Well, you guys were too early, right? So that part's fucked, and then this part.
Or not they liked how her hair was done. I said, okay, she's speaking at the memorial. We expect her to speak at the memorial event. I felt the public was being unfair. Now that...
Why even have a memorial? Why do any of the things she did? She didn't have to do that. And you knew she was selling merch. Like, you mocked her for selling merch and recently, and that all the money they made, you knew all that shit. You were talking to people there. All these people are coming to you. They were freaked out what was going on. You didn't like the bitch. Come on, you didn't like her. You never liked her. You guys didn't have a relationship.
we're kind of getting more on the inside of the organization, the now fired employees are telling me, no, it was quite the opposite. She was in the office every day with Stacey Sheridan.
Okay, so you said you were talking to people all along, and you didn't know this till now? Now you know it. Now, fucking, she's a fucking liar. This is horrible. Like, they're like twin fucking evil sisters here.
Oh, Stacey Sheridan.
You know, like polar opposites, but the same kind of evil fucking, you know, the opposite sides of the evil spectrum.
Taking phone calls with Stacey Sheridan. That's like the head of the fundraising for Turning Point USA. So what I had imagined in my head was happening simply was not so.
Yeah. Then that didn't happen. Like, either you're fucked in the head and you're just like, you suck at this job. Like, you're supposed to be a reporter or a journalist. She's talking about journalism earlier on sometime in this thing. And, you know, or recently, I don't know what it was. You know, she was saying, like, you know, based on her age, she remembered when there was real journalism. If you're a journalist, then you would think that. Like, it was so obvious that that wasn't the case.
Something is not right. That's what I would like to say. That
is great. That's where you get something's not right. You know, this fucking Fort Huachuca bullshit and the Egyptian planes. You had this fucking thing, or now you have something that's fucking real, right? And you're botching it with your bullshit. You should come out and say, you know, I kind of knew this was fucked, but I didn't feel comfortable saying it. I knew other people were talking about it, but I don't think I could. I didn't want to be savage in the press. I didn't want to go after a grieving widow. I still thought I could get in. You know, I was manipulating. You know, I didn't want to burn bridges with Erika. So I knew she was grieving like a cunt, but I didn't call her out because I didn't want to be fucking on that side of things.
Not that call, the timing, the energy of that call does not feel right to me. This, I don't know. I don't know what's happening, but I think we are inching closer to figuring out what's going on. That's for sure.
Okay, inching closer. She's always inching closer. We're just around the corner, you guys. Just stay with me for another 12 years, and we'll get to the bottom of this, and Bridget McComb's penis, and Donald Trump's deep state thing, and my gay husband. You know,
and we will have more for you in the coming weeks. It also led me to another stunning discovery that we have made in large part thanks to internet sleuths. There was a lot of media panicking when we discussed Project Looking Glass. We discussed the fact that Charlie was indeed a gifted child who went to a literal children's school for the...
Okay, so this is the second part here. I'm gonna have to continue this tomorrow morning. Okay, Wednesday, the 28th of February, or January. I could have skipped a whole month of January. Just looked at it doesn't get 33 degrees till 2 Fridays from now, which is, I mean, it's below 30 degrees, 32 degrees freezing for the next. I was just trying to figure out how to deal with the snow in the driveway. So I'll be basically plowing 2 times a day for the next 10 days at least, which I'm not looking forward to unless I figure something out, and I think I have a plan. Anyways, so let's continue where I left off last night. I ran out of time, but here we go.
In the coming weeks, it also led me to another stunning discovery that we have made in large part thanks to internet sleuths. There was a lot of media panicking when we discussed Project Looking Glass. We discussed the fact that Charlie was indeed a gifted child who went to a literal children's school for the gifted. I told you guys also that street lights used to go out when he ran. There's a whole term for that. Apparently, a lot of people go through that. We saw that in the comments.
Wow, he was an amazing person. He went to this gifted school for gifted kids.
Section. Now, what does it all mean? On my episode, I posited that the military was keeping its eye on quote unquote gate children, gifted children, by different names, but, terming it more broadly, children that go through the GATE program. That Charlie's life may have therefore been a literal Truman Show once they realized that he was extraordinarily gifted. So let me remind you that when Charlie was having these...
Okay, so, he went to a special school because he was special. Most kids who go to special schools are special. So, Charlie was not a phenom. Like her whole narrative and the whole narrative DPUSK falls apart because Charlie was, above average intelligence. And so, maybe he showed up on the gifted, whatever it is, right? But he wasn't spiritually gifted. He wasn't a genius. He wasn't like, he's not that smart. Like he was, whatever he was, right? And he became successful largely in part to Israeli donations. But he was, he was above average intelligence, and whatever he did with TPUSK was a success and materialistically successful, but it's, it was a short-lived success. It's, and the success is predicated on dumb fucks, right? Like it's pandering to dumb fucks. And so, he's not, when I look at him, I don't think he's that smart. Like, I don't think he's, there's people who you're talking to who are really smart, like smarter than you. When you're talking to somebody smarter than you, especially you can talk to somebody who's smarter than you on a specific subject. Like we have this mechanic who, we heard about as being like just he doesn't charge a lot of money. Like he doesn't rip you off, and he's really dedicated to his work. And the guy will talk to me for 20 minutes about my truck, and he's lost. I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about. And I could spend my whole life being about cars and trucks, and I wouldn't be as good as this guy. Like he's just, he's a phenom for that, for a mechanic, right? And people can become artists at something. They're artists. When they reach a certain level of passion for something, and there's a divinity in there, it's also being congruent with who you are. And so when you're congruent with your destiny, like your soul's path, and maybe this was Charlie's soul's path, for whatever reason. But it isn't he isn't spiritual. Charlie was not at all spiritual. He wouldn't be celebrating the stupid Shabbat. Like he was religious at best, but mostly materialistic, right? He was much more concerned about his popularity, his numbers, and he sold his religion out. He sold his Christianity out for Israel and Trump, right? Who neither one of those, Trump's a fucking demon, and Israel is not. What happened with Jesus was he transcended his religion. He was born Jewish and he became something else. He didn't become a Christian. Jesus wasn't a Christian. Buddha wasn't a Buddhist, right? Krishna wasn't a Hindu. Like that's a little bit more complicated. But when you become a spiritual person, you're no longer a religious person. Religion's good when you're a kid. Swami Vivekananda. It's good to be born into a religion, but it's horrible to die in one. Everyone should do what Jesus did and Buddha did and Krishna and these other great souls. They were born into a religion as a child, and that's like, it's like a kindergarten to learn about God, and then you transcend that and have a interpersonal relationship with God. And so Charlie didn't have that. And I've been around highly developed spiritual people, certainly the master of the Sajmark system. And, then other people who are just random practitioners who are just saints, living anonymous lives and just being really devoted to God. And you won't notice the people because they're so subtle. But when you do, you're like, holy shit. And you kind of contemplate the person, when you think about other people. And they're beyond your contemplation. They're beyond what you can think about because they're more evolved than you. And I've experienced people like that, right? Many of them who are like doing a much better job than certainly I was at the time, or they were years ahead of me in terms of spirituality, like their spiritual journey. And their dedication is just, their dedication to God, and they become something. They self-actualize, right? The master within. They become the best version of themselves. And all of us who haven't done that, when you meet someone like that, you can't really understand them because they've reached a level that you don't have access to, right? It's easy to look down on people that are below you and understand them. You understand, like, it's like you can understand your dogs and your, animal life, and you can study them, and they're complex, right? But you kind of, you figure out the inner workings. I'm very interested in the inner workings of other people. Like, I'm fascinated by it. That's why I got into psychology and myself, right? Because that's, ultimately you're trying to figure out like your own personal inner workings. And that's why I got into these various things. And then, of course, the godly universe. And I've always liked to understand like what makes things tick and what makes, whatever it is. And I think everybody has some kind of interest in that. And Charlie Kirk wasn't special. Like, there's nothing special about him. He was above average intelligence, and he became famous. And, famous people aren't special. They have a talent. Like, they have some kind of talent. He had a talent. He was able to do this thing. And, whatever that talent was in terms of being a businessman, how much of that was handled by other people, he was propped up. He had a team of people propping him up. But ultimately, he had a failed, mission because he talked about God quite a bit, right? And so Candace Owens should know this. She says, like, with her going back to this thing with Erika Kirk, she willfully was either lying to herself about Erika Kirk, but more likely she just knew she couldn't go in there, which means she's lying to her audience, right? She knew Erika Kirk was fucking weird. She probably didn't like her in the beginning. She probably didn't like her before Charlie died. Like, I don't know how many people actually like Erika Kirk, before that. Like, just, the way she's grieving and grifting, yeah, sure, that's one thing. But before, like, did she like her before? Who liked Erika Kirk before? They weren't friends. They were obviously not friends. And so, and Erika Kirk was cutting her out of the big funeral. No, they didn't bring her back in for any of it. They had fucking Ben Shapiro, who Charlie hated, right? And these other people. AmFest, I don't know if Ben Shapiro was at the funeral, but he was invited as one of the first guests. And Charlie apparently hated him, and she knew that, right? Like, people Charlie hated was being invited in. And she, was supposedly one of Charlie's closest friends and was somebody who really helped him in the beginning rise up to, make TPUS gay, whatever it was, right? And so, again, some of it could be her marching orders, her script. But either way, she's deceiving her audience. Because Charlie Kirk was a piece of shit, right? Because he Charlie Shekels. He betrayed his country, he betrayed his audience, his young people. He was trying to warp the minds of young people to be in favor of a parasitic relationship with an ungodly, Zionist movement. And, spiritual people don't believe in the fucking Old Testament, right? And they realize it's full of shit, like it's a bad book. And so, here, let's let her finish up here.
Visions about his death. Back in 2018, he specifically told me that he knew from the moment that he began Turning Point USA that he was going to die young. I'm going to re-show you this text message again so you can see it. Literally, he writes, since the beginning of...
Okay, so and Erika Kirk called him a prophet, right? But if he was a prophet, he'd have to be right about some things. Predicting his death young, sure, maybe he had some kind of a moment where he kind of realized that was going to be his thing. I mean, who knows, fuck, if he's even dead, right? Like, who gives, this whole thing is fucked, right? It's like, anything within the show is not credible. But, okay, sure, let's say he did that. That's great. But that's not being a prophet, right? Like, a prophet sees, the benefits of something and is on the right side of things. A spiritual person, Trump is a piece of shit, which, I haven't covered the stuff yet, but, it's been obvious forever. Now, the Trumpers are starting to see Trump's a piece of shit, even some of the most dedicated Trumpers, not fucking Megyn Kelly apparently, but everyone else is starting, and they've always seen this. People that are with Trump because they can't go against him, right? But, Candace Owens saying Trump is deep state. Well, if he was deep state, why didn't Charlie prophesize that? He did everything in his power to get Trump elected, and Trump was, failing on the Epstein files, failing on Iran. Charlie Kirk was America first. let's not get involved with these foreign countries. And he was, you know, seeing that Trump was going the other direction. So Trump was a failure. And he married his fucking nightmare of a wife, who at best is his handler, right? I mean, you know, what can you say about her? And so, so that's not a prophet. And then he backed Israel. And he backed Israel when they were committing the genocide. No spiritual person would do that. Like, there's nothing there. So, you know, this whole thing with Charlie Kirk and TPUSK, it was never good. Like, it's bad now, but it wasn't good before. And they've made him into something that he's not. Like, Erika Kirk called him a prophet. She's calling him a prophet. He wasn't prophetic because he would have been on the right side of these things, right? He would have not taken the money, but he had to take the shekels. And he was so pro-Israel because of his commitment to the Shabbat and Old Testament. He went to Israel, had some spiritual experiences, like he says, but there's no spiritual energy there. You know, not like it's, I mean, that stuff with Christ is long since. The energy doesn't stay forever. You know, the energy at these ashrams I've gone to, it doesn't last forever. There's a charge. And after the guy dies, there's spiritual people who can charge the atmosphere. All of us who do this meditation, Sajmark meditation, we transform the energy in our houses. And you go to one of these people's houses and it felt like these ashrams. People who bring God into their house and then do this cleaning, you know, spiritual cleaning. It cleanses the atmosphere on a spiritual level. And it turns into a pristine place. If you are around a truly godly person, their energy exudes out of them. And then their living space and where they are, and, you know, their neighborhood, their at work, there's a cleaning, right? And a spiritual person can't exist. They become more and more sensitive. And you can't exist in a gross environment. The second master of the Sajmark system, Babaji, was in England, and it was so fucking gross there. He said to the people there, I couldn't even breathe. I had to clean 5% of the atmosphere in England just to, so I could breathe. You guys have to do the rest of it. Like, you have to, you know, make England like a spiritual place. And they were like, well, you're just in France. They're very immoral there, right? It must have been gross there. He goes, oh, no, I quite liked it there. And so, you know, France is known for its, like, sort of immorality and, you know, whatever it is. But England is just such a heavy place with the, you know, the colonizations and the other thing. I experienced that, too, when I went there with my family. We were flying back from India. And we went to one of those castles, and it was pretty cool, the castle, but I couldn't stand that. You know, I wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. It's a dense, especially we were in London, you know, where we went by the Buckingham Palace. We were in, like, the whole fucking thing. We were like, I was like, this place is, you know, I couldn't wait to get out. And I went to Vegas, which I found was quite nice spiritually, like, even with all the gambling. I wasn't, you know, on the strip, but, like, it's the area out there in the, you know, that area with Nevada and Arizona and New Mexico and Colorado and Utah. You know, Utah particularly is a beautiful place, and a lot of spiritual energy there in the desert. You know, the high desert, but, you know, just naturally, like, not what people do. There's spiritual places that are natural, and then there's the ones that are enhanced by humans. If you live in a spiritual place that's good energy, and then you are meditating and bringing in this transmission and things, you know, you're charging the area. Like, saints used to charge idols. They used to put their spiritual energy into idols. Like, they would charge it, and then the people would go and worship these idols because they felt spiritual energy there. I used to go to this peace pagoda. It was a Buddhist peace pagoda in the, like, sort of the hills in Massachusetts, you know, close to the Five College area. And it had good spiritual energy there. Not like the ashrams I went to, but just the whole area. You could feel it as you went up to the top. And you can sense spiritual people when you become more sensitive, and you can feel spiritual energy. And Charlie didn't have any of those things, right? And, you know, he went to Israel, a place that doesn't have it, right? At least in terms of the third master Sajmark system, talked about that fucking wailing wall and said there's no spiritual energy here, which really was saying it's gross, right? It's very materialistic and whatever. And so Charlie was, you know, he wasn't this guy, right? He wasn't the guy all along. And Candace Owens should know that. Like, and she's still perpetrating this bullshit here.
Turning Point USA, I knew in my gut that I might get wiped out at any time. I cannot explain it, but I dream about it all the time, like all the time. Not really afraid of it, but I'm just telling you what I know to be true. I'm not sure I'm going to live It begins with, I'm not sure I'm going to live to see the end of this revolution. But interesting that he says.
But see, there's no revolution. That's the other thing. There's no revolution. Like, if Erika Kirk, I mean, you know, you married poorly, and you had a bunch of gay dudes around you who are supposed to be spiritual, right-wing, conservative, married, heterosexual Christians. And, you know, whatever they are, like, it's just weird over there. And they're infighting, and the thing's imploding. And it's, you know, lost credibility. Like, so it's not, what revolution? What fucking revolution you're talking about? Like, the revolution that's coming is a post-collapse. Oh my God, we suck, we got to do better, and please, God, help us become better. Beseeching God for forgiveness, as it says in the Whispers of the Brighter World. Like, that's the only thing. None of this politics matters. None of this stuff matters. There's a comment I want to get to. Somebody was talking about, you know, their husband, you know, people who, when people in your life don't see it. I want to talk about that in a bit. But, like, none of these things matter, the politics and none of these things, right? I'll get to all that stuff, the comments in a bit. But, you know, none of this stuff matters. Like, you know, I cover it here, but it's just, you know, it's window dressing for, as the society around us collapses. It's evidence. What I'm presenting is the evidence of, one, the American dream is not a real goal of human life for a person. Becoming rich and famous and successful isn't that, number one. And number two, you know, none of these things, the system can't be fixed. And it's not a good system. It's taking us in the wrong direction. We're going in a de-evolutionary direction. And that, you know, we're going away from God and what's natural to human beings. And this is all, you know, do I have to even fucking say these things out loud, right? Why do I even have to say them, right? You can't see it? Like, we're going in the wrong fucking direction. How many people, you know, on both sides of the aisle, you want to blame the Republicans or the fucking liberals, you want to blame the conservatives or the liberals or whatever it is, you want to, you know, say it's this or that, the other thing. But it's everybody going in the wrong fucking direction. Our society is built in a demonic fashion with debt-based economy and hedonistic materialism, and we're going in the wrong direction. We're disconnected from our souls because of a demonic system. It's making people worse. It should be obvious to everybody. Like, the product of your system is the people, and the product of the people is the system, and both of them are going in the wrong direction. I cover it all the time, and people just, you know, I mean, we see how bad people are, and, you know, not being able to see the truth that's right in front of their fucking faces because they're just dead inside, and people just checked out and are walking around like NPCs. And so that's all this stuff. So, you know, this fucking stupid shit that she says about Charlie in a special school and all the fucking, you know, these things. Yeah, you know, they identified him, sure. Like, he was identified to be used as a pawn in this whatever it might be. And he was used. And, you know, he got his little fame and fortune. He got his DPUS gay thing, which, you know, is by current definitions was success, but by any real definition isn't successful. And to say that he was going to be a part of some revolution, let's just end this thing here.
Since the beginning of Turning Point USA, we should probably therefore go back to the founding story of Turning Point USA. The story the public knows, and the story that I was told, is that Charlie was this teenager, didn't get into West Point. Anyway, he's speaking at a conference where a man named Bill Montgomery happened to be in attendance. He has since passed. I've met Bill Montgomery. He's very kind to me. And my point in bringing this up is not to throw any shade on him, but because I'm now interested in this origin story. Anyways, he's in attendance. He's absolutely floored at Benedictine University when...
Okay, so we don't need to go through this thing because everybody who makes it into what I call the show, it's undesirable to be recruited into the show and have this kind of backing. But they don't allow you to have a big voice in this, you know, with the people, unless you're handled and compromised. And they can, you know, trust that you're going to, you know, participate in a way because they don't want somebody telling the truth, right? They don't want people telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, right? And so all these people are, you know, they all have a story. Like, she talks about how they were assigned handlers, which she admits to, but she's completely handled now. Because the reality of the thing is, this whole bombshell thing she just delivered, we all knew 3 fucking months ago, right? when Erika Kirk first started, we were like, holy shit, who's this bitch? Right? Who is this? Like, she became the star of the fall of this whole fucking TPUSK thing. And so this was this, I mean, we were like, holy, right? When you first saw Erika Kirk and she was doing that speech, I'm like, you couldn't even listen to it. Like, I can't get through any more than a couple minutes of Erika Kirk stuff, and then it just becomes shitty. Like, it's just, no matter how bad I'm mocking it or whatever. I mean, she's so fake, and she's so weird, and she's so just what she's off-putting. With Candace Owens, she has more valuable information, and sometimes she's on the right side of the thing in terms of at least taking down TPUSK, whatever reason she's doing that. But she's the same way. Like, they're two polar opposites of these evil whores that they're out there fucking, shilling for, leading people down a dark path and pretending to be godly women, right? They're both godly women. They both talk about God, and they both can do it in a convincing way. Like, Candace Owens has some spiritual tendencies and dreams and things that she can convince you, and maybe they're true, maybe that's actually part of her thing, but she's ultimately on the wrong side, and she's deceiving you, right? Erika Kirk is good at talking about Christianity. She says some of the right things. They're both smart. They're both smarter than Charlie Kirk. Both of them. Like, how the fuck do you think Erika Kirk outsmarted him? Or whatever she was doing with him, right? Like, how did she stay, long enough to take over his shit, right? To inherit his thing. And she was pretty psyched about it. But nobody counted on her being so unlikable. Like, I just don't think that, oftentimes, it's very apparent that all this research that they're doing, it's like they're trying to convince aliens. Not convince, it's a research project for aliens to understand human beings so they can, people who are foreign to the human, I talked about this in my book, The Choice. They're like, people who are, souls from some kind of a planet that's lost its way, like it's a more technologically advanced ancient civilization in some planet that they've gone the demonic route, and they're more advanced, more intelligent, and the souls come down here. It's easier to invade. The best way to invade a world is not through spaceships and traveling there, space travel and all that shit. It's like you have to mobilize. It's hard to fight a war. America, when we're fighting wars in the Middle East, a lot of the expense is just shipping our equipment over. That's why they left all that equipment in Afghanistan. And they left all that equipment in Iraq. Because it's too fucking expensive to ship it back. It's heavy fucking shit, right? And so they have to bring all that shit into the, they have to take it by plane and boat and all that stuff to mobilize an army. It's expensive to fight a war halfway across the world, but what about halfway across the universe? But your souls, you can incarnate as a bunch of souls. Like, we have negative souls that are here, that are like invading, soul energy, that are warping this planet, right? And, doing research on the human beings and then collecting it with, these AI computer algorithms and databases. And they have to figure out how to control, when you're controlling livestock, like when we milked our cows, we have to establish a routine, right? And the cows liked certain kinds of food that we would get them. Like, if you give them this, there's this food with molasses in it. Most of the food is sweet, like they call it, like, sweet cow feed. And we had this organic feed that was good, but the cows didn't love it. It was like health food, right? But you give them sugar, they would put molasses on it. And, to get the cows in the trailer, we would put molasses in these bowls, and they would, stuff that they were willing to climb up in a trailer to get. They didn't want to go in, right? This kind of thing. So we would train them in this routine, and they would come in. They would enjoy getting milked, partially because it's a relief, when they weren't nursing their children. And, the milk builds up, so it's pressure. And so it's that. And then they would get either alfalfa pellets or, some kind of feed that they liked, right? Something that was, that was worth them going in there and sitting still to get milked, right? And you have to learn how to train them. You learn how the cows think. It's like training a dog or, domesticate animals, and human beings study them. Like, they study these animals, and they learn how to, control them and, fucking circus monkeys and shit. Those gay dudes in Vegas with the tigers. This kind of stuff, right? Like, there's this studying of them, and the same thing is true with human beings, trying to understand, how to control them. And you have divine forces, higher developed souls that are here, that are to elevate, that work for God, that are, coming from a more advanced circumstance, that are higher up spiritually. And Charlie Kirk wasn't one of those, right? Like, whatever he was and whatever this whole thing was, it was a dark thing. This was, they talk about God, but they're not, not in a way that's going to benefit people. Like, it's a way to manipulate people, right? The people who talk about God in a way to get things out of it. They use people's, desire for a connection with divinity, and they turn it into a bullshit religion, all these religions, that act as a middleman between God and the person. And it's, divinity and God, claiming the right of God, right? That's what our God-given right as Americans, our God-given right as English, our God-given right as, whatever country it might be, right? That's why China struggles, because they don't believe in divinity, right? So that's going to always be a struggle. The people, everyone has this, this at the base of everyone's core existence, its primary function is to return to the source. And it's there, but it's, in everyone's soul. And so even if it's buried deep, it's there. All right, so I gotta go shovel the driveway or plow it. And I'll come back and do the beginning of this video with Trump stuff, and then I got these questions and comments to get to, or whatever it is. So that's it for this piece. Okay, so one more thing about Candace Owens here. I was out plowing. My wife had to get out this morning. The driveway was pretty good. I plowed it last night, which I've discussed earlier in the video. So I'm now widening the shit out of it, and so that the snow just can't accumulate. It'll blow. I'm making it whatever. You don't need to know. But I had this thought because I saw this, and then I dismissed it. I watched this one little part about Taylor Swift. I saw Megyn Kelly talking about it, but I didn't cover this Taylor Swift, Justin Baldoni thing. Sometimes I get into celebrity stuff for views, or if it is something I've covered before. But, I don't have to cover it because YouTube isn't rewarded me for it. So I don't really cover much celebrity stuff anymore. So occasionally on my other channel now, I do some brief things. But she said this thing is very indicative and telling to what I'm talking about here. She's talking about Taylor Swift.
Whole life, and her husband conspired, brought in the big guns, Taylor Swift. And I told you guys, another coin in the Candace was right jar. I said, let me tell you something about Taylor Swift. She's going to survive this. I've been watching Taylor her whole career. I know how she gets down. If you guys have my book, Make Him a Sandwich, I have a whole chapter on Taylor.
Boom. Book plug. Make him a sandwich.
Swift, just documenting the things that she does. You got to give credit where credit is due. She's first class on the Titanic, okay? A lot of times thought it was going to sink, and then Tree, her agent, is like, nope, cut that friend off. We're going to save you. And the closest we got to seeing the real Tay-Tay.
So you see that, right? Cut that friend off. We're going to save you. So what she's praising Taylor Swift here for, Tay-Tay, what she's praising her here for, is that whatever that Blake Lively, whatever she tried to, Taylor Swift was giving her army, right? So Taylor Swift will use her dumb fuck fans, her Swifties, right? When I grew up, calling someone a Swiftie meant they were stupid, right? Like, oh, you're Swift. Swift means fast, so it was a sarcastic way of saying that you're slow, right? Oh, you're so swift, you're a Swiftie. And so, her dumb fuck fans, and Taylor Swift is the ultimate victim, right? She always is a victim, no matter what's happening. And she is great at playing the victim to her fans and then using her fans in a very obnoxious way. There's this guy who I just found out is dead. But he was a flat earth truther. I didn't know the guy. And he copied a couple of my videos. One of them, some of my viewers told me this guy copied your video. They didn't say, they said someone's copied your video. I had no idea who this guy was. And he made some of his own content, but he also mirrored which is copying whole videos of people. And he cut off the part where I introduce myself, like the part where I, which is fucked up, like, the part that's would be indicative of the pockets of the future thing, right? And so he copied my video and put it up, and I didn't know this was happening all the time. This is when I was getting hundreds of thousands of views, and people were taking my videos all the time. And so I, did whatever I did with YouTube, and he got a copyright strike. And I didn't know the guy at all, and he comes back, and he makes a video, and we had a shared audience, and he made this video saying that I purposely, intentionally was trying to take his channel down. Like I fucking plotted, like I knew who he was, and I gave him a strike on purpose because I wanted to destroy his channel. A really whiny, fucking bitchy piece of shit kind of thing to do. And I came home from someplace and I had like a migraine, and there's 300 comments. We had a shared audience, right? We had people, that watched both of our channels. And all these people, why are you doing this? And all this fucking bullshit. This is when I realized, that this is, like you just have to understand people will turn on you in a second. I mean, people who were regular commenters were treating me like I was just fucking, believed everything the guy said, right? And we went back and forth. I made videos, and, I had to go through this and deal with it and ban all these fucking people. And like, again, people would watch my videos for years and, whatever it might be. And I realized what a bitch move this was, right? And he was 100% in the wrong. He eventually apologized in a letter, and he, whatever. But, he said things that were blatantly untrue to his audience to turn them against me. And, I realized it's a bitch move. And it's not just, it's you're manipulating your audience and you're turning them into like an internet mob. And it's just not a cool thing to do, right? You should fight your own battles. You don't, all these things, right? So in that, what Candace is praising here, Taylor Swift was, there was this exchange of their messages. And Taylor Swift was like praising her for kicking Justin Baldoni's ass and offering her fucking dumb fuck army of fans to, help her. This was the whole thing. Remember, Blake Lively said something about she was a dragon rider and, her husband and, these big mega stars. But eventually things turned on her, right? And it was clear that Taylor Swift was going to suffer collateral damage. And so she cut ties with Blake Lively, right? Which shows you, and Candace is praising this. Like, she was willing to use her army, but didn't want to. This is the same thing that happened with Charlie Kirk when he was, shilling for Israel. And then his fans, his people, started to turn on Israel. And he couldn't support him anymore. And he was in this bind because he'd taken hundreds of millions of dollars. And he wanted to kind of do both. He wanted to criticize them and still receive the money. And this shows you Candace Owens is what she thinks is smart and tactical. Like, she's praising her here.
Is when I said, okay, I see what she is, was the Kanye West situation way back when. You remember that?
Taylor Swift knows when to get out. Like, she's talking about this, and I'm not going to show you anymore. You get the idea. You saw what she said already. She's, and this is the same thing with the way she's handling Erika Kirk. When Erika Kirk was riding the Grieve train, and, Candace Owens is waiting and watching to see, when it's appropriate for her to come in against Erika Kirk. Like, Erika was always the target. This was always going to happen. And Owens is a very strategical person. And she's, so she's like, when are you going to tell your audience the truth? Like, when are you going to go after, when are you going to go after the actual target that you're setting up? Like, she was hinting at Erika Kirk the whole time, but saying nice things about her, right? Oh, if she asks me to stop, I will, all that kind of shit. But she knew Erika Kirk was a grifter. She knew. She knew before Charlie Kirk was dead. They didn't like each other. But now she comes out. Right now, like, finally, after all this, back and forth in the meeting and all these things. And it shows you that she's not telling her audience the truth until she thinks it's in their best advantage, right? That she withholds information. She baits people into things, and she does all these things. But it's not, it's deceitful and manipulative. And, you're just as bad as Erika, right? Like, just come out and tell the fucking truth. It's just not that hard. And don't worry about, what your fans are going to do. Anybody who's, not willing to tell the truth because they're afraid of losing supporters is not a truther. Your job is to tell the truth even if the people can't handle it or aren't ready for it. You know, I've had people come back to my channel and say, you know, I was pissed off at you like 5 years ago, and now I realize you were totally right. You know, because that's the way what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to tell the truth, even if it's unpopular, with your fans and other people. And, you know, she's pretended to do that with Israel and things like this, but only when it's safe to come out, right? Like, there's certain things that you can't say, like, because YouTube won't let you, or, you know, because whatever it is. You just can't say them. Like, it's just a societal pressure or whatever it is. But, you know, don't say the opposite, right? Like, if you can't say something for whatever reason, you know, you're not allowed to in some ways, you know, you'll be deplatformed or whatever it is. I can understand all that. But don't lie about, like, don't talk about how great Erika Kirk is. You know, just stay neutral. If you know she's a piece of shit and you can't say it yet, all right, I can understand, you know, the business side of things. It wasn't time for her to say it. But all those people would be coming swarming back right now if she had said this 3 months ago like the rest of us did, or many of us did. You know, and she didn't. She could have said it. There wasn't any, you know. But she wanted, you know, whatever she wanted out of that deal, whatever she was manipulating and strategizing, right? Strategery, whatever she was doing with that, fucking, you know, it just shows you who she is, right? And like just the same as Erika, you know, manipulative, you know, using the truth when it's convenient, right? That's not, you know, that's what is to your advantage. All right, so let's get to the comments here. Okay, only I think one comment to get to. This video is already long, and I want to make it public as soon as possible. Today's Wednesday, January 28th, and like I said in the introduction throughout the video, there's going to be maybe no video tomorrow. Whatever is going to happen, we'll see, based on, you know, what happens. But at some point, I'm going to take a day off for people to catch up on whatever content needs to be caught up on. And so there was a comment that came in last night on my phone. And, you know, YouTube selects a small amount of comments that that will go to my phone, and they'll just come up as a message, just like with Twitter. And I just happened to glance at it. I usually don't even read them on my phone that much. But, you know, this is something I wanted to talk about for a little bit because, you know, I always talking about the dumb fuck Republicans or the dumb fuck Democrats or just the dumb fucks in general. And so what do you do with dumb fucks, right? Or just people who are just not awake in your life, who might be good people, valuable in other areas, but are just not there in certain things. So this person writes, my husband has been a first responder for 30 years, and I'm so upset with his take on the Pranhuiti shooting. The Pranhuiti shooting. We used to be on the same page until Trump has completely betrayed those who voted for him. It's so distressing. For some reason, he insists on believing Trump's doing things meant for the best. Wah, with exclamation points and question marks. We've been together since we were 14 and are now 50. 4 kids later, loved each other over all these years, and this is just painful, especially because I know that they are doing all this on purpose and will divide people. What's worse is being divided in your own home. God help us all. And so, you know, one thing I wanted to say about this, because I'm pretty harsh on the dumb fucks, or people who, like, and I have no, you know, use for them in many capacities. Certainly I'm not a social person. But, you know, you're never going to be exactly on the same page with your significant others, because people in the truth community often disagree. And it might be about details. You might agree that that Trump's a piece of shit, but you also will have different takes and understanding of that, right? You know, I'm not offering advice, but the important things to remember is it doesn't matter. Like, if you, I mean, have any sense of what's going on, there's nothing that can be changed. There's no apparatus to leverage the situation. And the biggest reason for this, aside from, you know, everyone's so fucked up and there's no chance of people themselves, you know, to organize the masses. I mean, you can destroy a system, but you can't build another one, right? You know, if let's say everybody got together and said, fuck the government, fuck the Republicans, fuck the Democrats, and the mob went apeshit, and then there's no government, there's no Republican Party, no Democratic Party, and there's just chaos. all those different people will then vie for power, and they'll break up again. They'll come together as a coalition of angry people to take down the government. This has happened time and time again, and historically. People will come together, and then once the government's taken down, they can't agree on what to do next, right? And so you've had disastrous, like what's happened in these communist countries, what's happened in Russia and China and some of these countries. And it's just, violence and fucking depravity and lack of, just a lack of poverty and a lack of anything. It's just everything is, as I often said, as bad as a government is, when you take it down, and we've seen these governments be taken down by America, or some other country takes down a government. America's the biggest doer of this. And there's regime change, and then the country goes to shit for years. Look at Iran. Iran is, an ongoing disaster because of what America did in Operation Ajax. And so none of that shit works. It doesn't make anything better. It makes things worse. As bad as our government is, as bad as our media is, as much as they lie, if you have complete disorder, like if you have chaos, then you'll see how bad that is. Gang rule, and people go into the lowest common denominator and just how bad war-torn countries are. You can't even imagine. Like, we can't imagine because we haven't lived through it. Like, we could read about it, but until it happens, you're like, oh, yeah, this is fucking way worse. And so, in all that, you have to remember you have people in your life, and your beliefs aren't all that important. It's good to have people that have similar beliefs, at least, for a good portion of them, people that you can talk to. But, none of this stuff matters. It's just, it's like watching a movie and disagreeing about what you're seeing on the movie screen. But either way, you're not affecting the outcome. So it really, it sucks that people have, disagreements with their family and the significant others and being divided. But it really doesn't, nothing matters because, like everyone's got to tolerate something in a relationship, right? Master Charji, the third master of the Sajmark system, wrote a book called My Master about Babaji, and he had a whole chapter about tolerance. And he talked a little bit about patience there, patience and tolerance, which every spiritual person has to have, right? And, we have neighbors. We have good neighbors and bad neighbors, like really bad neighbors and really good neighbors. And the really good neighbors are Christians. And we've never talked about politics. They might be semi-truthers. I'm not sure where they stood on the vax and things. But, when things break down, you're going to need people. And, you have people in your life that have, maybe somebody that, whatever you interact with that politically you don't agree with. But, these are nice people and you can get along and you got to find common ground. As much as I disparage the dumb fucks, it's more about people who claim to be truthers and are not, right? And the people who are just, just don't care or just, they're not activated in some way or another. But everyone has to remember that there was a time where they didn't wake up, right? And, it's impossible to get the kind of agreement that, that we have. There's so much disparity between people who are so-called like real truthers, not like, dumb fuck Republicans and dumb fuck liberals and, the QBs and the flat earthers, but like, real truthers that are, seeking the truth. And people can't even agree with that. And people are at different stages. When I was doing the Sajmark system, there's a lot of saintly people. And we have one thing in common, which is our most important thing, which is our spiritual life and loving the Sajmark meditation. But only about, just like every other, demographic, every other group, only about 10% of the people are truthers, and those people don't agree. There was all these predictions about prophecies. I read all the prophecies recently as a video. It's linked in all my videos. I think I put it in the description box. And I went through some of the prophecies. There's a lot more that aren't in that chapter. I'm going to eventually do a second part. But this was talked about as a plan, a divine plan, what's happening now. And it would result in the collapse of our civilization. That's a part of our shared philosophy. And none of these motherfuckers were doing anything about it. So my family and I were desperately looking. We reached that stage. We had, everything was falling apart anyway. But there's a point where you can't go any farther on your own, so you have to establish community. And it's really hard to find people. I talk to people who are in intentional community, people we bought our cows from. There's a group of people called Twin Oaks in Virginia. It's one of the original intentional communities. It's based in B.F. Skinner's behaviorist model. And I talked to the people. One guy said, because they only allow 100 people, and everybody's got to come in equal. You got to leave all your money and all your things, your possessions. You can take whatever limited things with you. But basically, it's 100, hippie-like people that are living there, and they always have 100 people. Like, one person goes, they can let somebody else in. And he said it's like being married to 99 other people, right? Like, so you think about how bad that is. But it's very hard to, when things break down, everyone's going to have to find common ground and get along with people in your neighborhood. You're going to have a community. You're going to have a village. And so, that starts with married couples, that everyone has to get on the same page and just accept, how things are, frustrating as it is. You're not going to get people who are, you got to look at it in terms of the bigger picture. Like, are people able to have value? Like, it's more about people who have value. I talked about a community here for a little bit, and things went south for me personally, just in general. I couldn't put much effort into it. I got some people that contacted me, and then it just sort of faded away. But it was a very few, a limited amount of people that contacted me, that might have the ability to move close to where my farm is, our farm is, and, be a part of that. Like, we could feed a lot of people in the land that we have. But, having youth would be important, young people who are more capable of physical labor and more, have a future, it's harder when you're older because you're planting fruit trees that you're never going to use. There's a famous story that Master Charge used to always tell, that this grandfather's planting all these fruit trees, and his grandson said, "Grandfather, you're not going to be around when you, Grandpapa, you're not going to be around when these trees bloom. And, why are you doing it?" He said, "No, they're not for me. They're for you. They're for the future, right? Planting seeds and things." But, the older people, our time is limited, and the older we get, the less, motivation we have to undergo all the whatever it is. But having young people who can, take something and continue it on. If there's a complete breakdown in society, that's going to be necessary. People are going to have to learn to do things in an alternative way. But the key to all these kind of things is to be grateful. People have to be grateful for what they have. And, there's very few people who do my meditation. The people in the Sajmark system, like I said, the way that they handled the dodgy debacle, but also they're not truthers. And it, was always a little bit frustrating. And the ones that are truthers are kind of goofy. They're not like, there's only one guy who listened to my videos occasionally. There was kind of another guy that I knew for a while, but he, he was kind of more on the liberal side. And, we had some conversations about it, but he was not, some kind of common ground, but not really, the kind of stuff that I talk about here. And that's with having, the basis of our belief system be our same spiritual beliefs. And so, even if you're a Christian, you're going to have trouble finding like-minded Christians. There's a whole variety of different Christians and different orientation to their religion. If you're in any of these big religions, it's hard to find people who are like-minded. It's really hard. Like, it's just, and people will say things, but they don't live by their principles, and they say they believe these things, but they're just saying them. Like, they maybe want to, incorporate these things into their lives, but they never do. And so everyone's got to just, be grateful for what you have. Focus on the good parts. All good relationships are based in both people focusing on being grateful for the good things and maximizing those, and, putting more. You can always focus on whatever in a relationship. You can focus on complaining. You can focus on ways that, people aren't, meeting your needs or whatever. And, if somebody really sucks, they really suck. You can't deny all those things. But if there's a lot of positives, then you have to focus on the positives. Any relationship where there's, just even 50% positive, you got to consider yourself lucky, because it's not like you're never going to get anything better than that. Like, you're not going to get, 100% just bliss. There's just none of that. Like, that only comes from ignoring things that might bother you otherwise, right? The truth community is largely about focusing on the negative, and that's the one problem. They're focusing on the problem, and almost no energy is put into the solution. So That's the problem with modern day therapy. It focuses on the problem. It's problem centered. And so, we're problem solvers, which is a good thing. But people are very much focused on problems rather than focused on gratitude and focused on the silver lining and trying to make things, as even things that are difficult, making them, blessings. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's paramount, definitely important for the apocalypse. And the ascension, everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.